shalom, peace. Excuse me. Excuse my tardiness. Prayerfully, everybody can see and hear me all right. Let's go ahead and get started. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, all right. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste, wasaya de kitawiya, Ohio, I see you, Manut, Wagwan, Kamsa, Kamsamida, Aloha, Ciao, Onson, Privet, Habarigani, Aguaba, Mandase, Itese, Jambo, Bibidi Kofi, the Franco Katan the Wewe, Bokurtav, greetings, salutations, grand rising, Bakwetav, Tada, Mashapachi, at Tasadaik, at Abba Yachava. Shalom, peace, greetings. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for joining us. My apologies. I had some stuff going on that I had to attend to, and had some stuff going on that we had to attend to, and since we were dealing with stuff and trying to make sure that we were on for prayer this rising, I had to jump in for that, so I had to make sure I got some stuff taken care of. But we are on. I tried to put a little bit in the email I tried to send out that we were going to be running a little bit late. So my apologies if you didn't receive that. I'm still a little bit late even for that, but hopefully all is well with everyone. We greatly appreciate you. Hopefully you come back ready to get to this truth, get to this reality, get to what Yahweh has for us, and prayerfully be able to learn and grow some along the way. So we're honored, we're thankful. Once again, we give our honor and praise to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. What is today? January I'll be getting off track so easily. What is today? January 29th. Okay, alrighty. So we will have, so this Saturday we will have everything. We normally have nothing in the evening because we don't have any men's meeting or women's meeting. So we'll see you guys. So besides that, Saturday coming up, everybody just be ready for our normal stuff tomorrow. Sisters, don't forget at 7 p.m. New York time before the live session, you have the women's meeting. And as far as the meeting that was missed on Monday, I will just send out a link to everyone. Also, too, for persons who are looking for links for the children, Elder Maya is going to start French classes again on Wednesday coming up next week. And I will have Kung Fu stuff. So Solomon will have Kung Fu and different things for you guys, but we'll probably be doing more recordings right now, especially because of the snow. I might even go out. I'll have to be very still, but we might even go out and record some stuff in the snow for you guys, just so at least you got something for the week. But we have been trying to make sure we've been put out word and message and stuff like that. So prayerfully, all is well with everyone. And we're grateful and appreciative and thankful for everybody once again. Hopefully you guys are doing well wherever you be. Everybody's been affected by the weather in some way, shape, or form a little bit. And thank you for everybody who was able to join us for Thursday Rising Prayer this rising. And prayerfully be touch and agree on all those different things that were said and need to be adhered to. All praises. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to get started. Thank you, everybody, once again. If you can hear and see me okay, let me know. Also, too, if you're able to rise to your feet in reverence of Yahweh's word, we're going to go to Revelation chapter 6. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 6, and we're going to start at verse 7. Once again, it'll be Revelation chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 7. Once you have it, say amen. I got it. I'm with you. I'm listening. You said you didn't get a notification? Yeah, I don't know. There's some interesting stuff that's been going on. It is what it is. You know, YouTube is connected to Google, so Google invite. So we might have to start looking at different things. It is what it is. Yeah, so if everybody can recall and everybody can remember, you know, what we have as far as our schedule and stuff like that, try our best to. For the most part, prayer on Thursdays before the live session, But yeah, prayers on Thursday, stuff like that, or even look it up, but quite possibly, it's interesting the way this stuff goes. They really don't want me to use it, and they want me to pay and absorb it in an amount for something that really everybody else is doing for free. So I just have not. When we get to a place where maybe we can afford it, so be it. But right now, we can't. So we will not. But it's not as simple as just the price. They don't like some of the stuff we say. And so since they own YouTube, it's kind of a connection too. So if we do certain things, if one suffers, then the other's going to suffer as well. But it is what it is. Right? We're just thankful for another day and thankful that Yah has us together. And feel free to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification tab. Thank you for any donations you guys give, etc. We very much so appreciate it. Alrighty, so we're going to Revelation chapter 6. Let's say shalom to everybody and get started. How you doing, Elder Anais, Sister Beck, Sister Tamika, Cultural Prospect, Sister Carla, and let's see, Double OG, Triple OG, Sister Double Ach. Oh, for ERP, for early, or for Thursday Rising Prayer, yeah. Thursday Rising Prayer, early Rising Prayer, yeah, it was out there. I even made sure when we were on for a little bit, I made it a point to I put a second notification out that said we have started or something like that. So it is what it is. But it's what I'm saying is the two are connected. Google owns YouTube, so if you have issues with YouTube, sometimes you can have issues with Google too. Is what I was more so saying. Unless I'm thinking the wrong thing. How you doing, Vanny or Vanai? It says 29 degrees. All right. How you doing, Mario brother? Sean, King, Marquise, Yvette, Pertwet, not sure how to pronounce that. Armanda Barnes, Homegrown, Montreal, and I'm not sure if that's the same Montreal as before. But yeah, so hopefully we'll get that stuff together. But thank you all for being on all the different platforms. We appreciate you so much. How you doing, Brother Keith? Alrighty, and once again, I did try to put I did try to make sure I sent something out to let you guys know that we were going to be running late for this rising. So hopefully you saw. But we tried to put that out. I was still later. I said 8:10. I think I came on like 8:13. But I knew I was going to be running late this rising, especially because I had to get some stuff taken care of after prayer service. But thank you all for being on. We're going to get ready to say our Bible pledge and jump right in. So if you're able to rise to your feet in reverence of your Yahweh's word, and if you'd like to put your right hand or your device, your Bible in the air, just get ready to repeat after me. Still on my cleansing journey. All praises. Alrighty. Put your Bible in or your device or your right hand in the air. Just repeat after me. How you doing, Sister Greta? My Bible's falling apart. Alrighty. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yechavach. Aman. Yahweh Shem, his name is authority. Let it be done unto us. We're going to read Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. That'll be our focal verses for this rising. Once again, Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. It reads as follows. It says, "And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, 'Come and see.' And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him." It's important. We're going to have to go through that for a second. But his name was on him was Death, and hell, Sha'al, followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of Arat, over the fourth part of the earth, to off persons with the sword, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. Let's just repeated that. So, and the power was given unto him, this person who was on the pale horse, power was given unto him to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. We've just read Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. May Yah Barak, those who bless, or so who read, hear, and especially adhere to his most holy and righteous word. That means we readeth it, we heareth it, and we keepeth it. You may be seated to go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. Amen. All right. So we're finishing up with the Horseman today. Revelation chapter 6, verse 7 is our focus scripture. And it's important that we recognize what's going on here. First of all, if you guys recall, as we've been going through, whenever we're dealing, how you doing, Sister Jennifer? Whenever we're dealing with horses, we have to think war. Whenever we're dealing with horses, you are at war, right? That's the context. That's the Israelite culture. If there are horses involved, we're dealing with wartime situations. Horses are not just out and about. Horses are out and about during times of war. I'm sorry, what about Acts chapter 2, verse 38? What does that have to do with what I'm talking about right now? Absolutely nothing. But if you're talking about being baptized at Shem Yehashvai, which is what it would have said, or in the name of Christ, you say the JC word, that's saying that in his authority. Sham or name means authority. What did he authorize? In Matthew chapter 28, verses 19 and 20. So, right? And what was he authorized when he was baptized? Who showed up? And by the way, whose baptism did he perform? It became in his name, but it's the same baptism that John did, the baptism of John, but it's in his name, in his authority. So if you're going to do what he authorized, you have to do what he authorized you to do. That being said, what that has to do with what we're talking about today, I don't know. But that being said, outside of Christ is mentioned in both of them. but if you want to try and keep up, right? If you're going to argue, you got to argue where I'm at. All right, I'm done with that. I'm not going to say anything else. So in all those different things, I'm not going to say anything else regarding that. So in all these different things that we're talking about today, we have to recognize and realize very quickly that we're having an issue that pops up, right? We're having an issue that pops up as far as mindset with persons. And we don't think about the fact that this is talking about us being at war. And if I might, how you doing, Sister Jacqueline, and anybody else coming on? If I may, this is not that far from where you are. If you're turning on your television, you might not have thought that Minnesota would be a war zone, but Minnesota has been a war zone. Matter of fact, Minnesota has been a war zone, really, for certain folk. It hasn't ever stopped being a war zone, but Minnesota has definitely been a war zone up there. At least since you want to talk about George Floyd, right? That's when everybody started paying attention. But you're seeing persons from other countries come over and they're taking videos and taking them back to their countries or showing them on social media to say what's going on. So you're already at war. And so we got to see what time we're in. How you doing, Lady Jane? Grand rising to you. Shalom. Peace to everybody on all the different platforms. So you got to figure out where you are, right, in this thing. Right? You're already at war. This is a wartime situation, and persons keep doing all this stuff, and we're fighting against each other, as we're going to discuss, and as a reminder of it. But first thing first, we're at war. How you doing, Elder Anais? Yeah, if you even want to call it civil war, it's been something that's been going on. It's the same war that's been happening since the 1600s here, right? It's the same war that's been going on against the Negro, and I'm not talking about Negro just meaning black. If you know that Negro was an actual culture and civilization, I'm talking about an actual country, right? Countrymen, those who were Yehudiya or Yehavedach or Judah, they were actually also known as Negro, right? In Europe, even in the 1300s, had to lawfully stop calling them that in the 1550s. So you have to recognize that there's a war that goes on against anybody or anything that looks like Yehadashah, including if we're coming back into the knowledge of self. Anything that is moral, anything that supports a group of persons who do not look like those who are trying to run the system. See, can I just real quick? We're gonna talk about a lot of different things today, so put your seatbelt on and buckle up tight. We gonna go, right? I'm trying to dress it up nice. Holy Spirit said, no, we gotta go. We gotta go. So we gonna go. Look, the reality is that a lot of the things that we're having discussions about and talks about and conversations about it are things that we should already know are coming, right? This is a revelation that's been given to the 7 assemblies that are spread out, right? Really, it's supposed to be a microcosm of us being scattered around the world. How you doing, Z to be true, right? And so we are looking at all this different stuff that's become an amalgamation of really we just go back to the word that has been telling us constantly and consistently this was coming, right? Has been telling us constantly, consistently, and truly, yeah, this is on its way. And we have this weird thing where we're surprised by it, but the reality is that not only are we in it, we are more than geared up for it if we do what's righteous. We've already been told how to deal with it, right? We've already been told, as much as everybody wants us to run out and grab this and grab that, and why are you not marching and blah, blah, this and that. And I'm not just talking about as a so-called black man. I'm talking about as a human being. Why are you not watching? Or in the kingdom, why are you not marching? Why are you not doing this? Well, because in all honesty, you're not standing up for the kingdom either. If you need to call me that, if I'm a follower of the way, then I would be grafting, even if I wasn't by blood or DNA, I would be grafting to Israel, as Revelation chapter 7 says, or as Paul teaches in Romans chapter 11. And so we would all be part of the same tree, all part of the same nation anyways. So if you need to call me that, sure, because as an Israelite, then that means I have to be Hebrew, and as a Hebrew, that means I have to be Shem, and as Shem, I have to be Noah, and as Noah, I have to, et cetera, right? So whatever you need to call me. Right? But I would say maybe you need to listen to what I say. You said what I say is not true? Okay, well, what's my blood type? What's my bloodline? If the moderators don't mind, because the moderators run stuff. Y'all see, we're gonna go a bunch of different places. We're already dealing with the racism stuff, or the person saying that I'm pseudo intellectual or pseudo biblical, whatever, right? So help me out. What's my blood type? Oh, the moderators already got you. So I'll just go ahead and explain this to you. See, they're gonna explain where we're going today. The person doing that is going right where we're headed. Thank you for making it easy. Because what you do is you spread misinformation. And so this person doesn't even care to say 5-minute timeout. That's cool, right? If they want to come back on, if they don't, right? I wasn't gonna give them that much time. They weren't gonna answer the question. It was clear. So thank you. You doing your thing. I appreciate you. But ultimately, persons don't want to be honest, right? How you doing, Minister Muriel? And hopefully all is well there on the roads and stuff. I know we're supposed to have a conversation too. So hopefully all is well with you though. Praying for you always, right? So put it like this. E1B1A blood, if you don't know what that is, then you already have messed up. And if you're talking about L1, L2, L3, really L2, L3, L4, but even L0, L1, and even L4, if you know what that is as far as DNA. If you don't know what that is, then you've already messed up. So that means that even though the modern Israeli will not honor what they've said publicly they would do, they owe myself and my family not just reparations, they owe us a piece of the pie. That's my blood type, if you want to go by eugenics, which seems to be your thing. Or if you want to go by the spirit, I just told you spiritually who Israel is. If you want to go by the Bible, right, by the shots, excuse me, by the shot, Kav Chit tells us, which is Genesis chapter 28, it tells us that Israel is where heaven meets earth. So if heaven is inside of you, then you must become Israel. Matter of fact, who is the woman who is Christ's wife? Everybody always tells you Christ's wife is the church. You have no biblical reference for that. See, let's just go all the way there. Did I say Shalom, Minister Raj? If I didn't, please forgive me. Right? And there everybody coming in all over the place. Right? Oh, thank you to the person you know who you are. Thank you for that. Right? So if you don't recognize what you're talking about or who you're speaking to, it's okay. Who shall believe our report? If you do not believe it, it's because you do not have ears to hear. But biblically speaking, I'm confident in any way, shape, or form you want to go about it of who I am and whose I am. And that's a danger to persons because when you find out who you are, you buck against the system, including even the horseman. When you know who you are and how this works, when you know how nationality works, right? And then on top of that, you can speak it without having to be as mean and spit as much poisonous venom as a lot of these snakes and serpents do who sound like their father, right? We get to a different place. How you doing, Brother Thomas? See, in all honesty, you sound like your father, the devil, because your father, the devil, would have you believe that what the Bible says is not true, and you would fight against it. Now, father doesn't mean that necessarily what you think it means. See, father is source. And even if you do not recognize who your source is, it does not mean that that's not who your father is. Right? My father is not the devil. He is not. Right? And persons get upset and frustrated. But this is the reality. Sometimes we got to talk. We got to talk that talk. We got to just be honest. Like you're having a conversation with somebody and you're upset that a fellow heir of Christ is speaking to you as a son. All right. So you're not ready for this because as we're talking about today, we're talking about the fourth horseman. And when we're talking about the fourth horseman, this is somebody who likes to bring death and hell with them, or don't even have the mind, right? So we're talking about the horseman, right? The fourth horseman, who's pale. Pale, by the way, actually meaning chloros, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's chloros, which is like what you guys get Clorox from and stuff like that. Chloros, talking about is bleached. And really would actually mean it's more ghastly. It's more like green or gangrene, maybe even yellowish. So this pale horse doesn't mean that he's white. I want to put that out there, right? By the way, remember, white is not a color anyways. And we've shown you what they think white is. What if you want to go by a color, it's really the lack of color. But when they talk about the color of Christ's hair being white, the color that they're using, that they're talking about, is actually wheat. So when they say we're all shades of wheat, no, the shades of wheat is actually a lot darker. Sometimes even certain types of wheat can even be so brown that you might even consider it from far away to be kind of black when it's like in certain places. But anyways, but what happens is if the wheat becomes white, it means it's lost life. And like we say all the time, you can't be an actual so-called white person because white is not a color. Right? So for you to be colorless, it means you have to have zero melanin, regardless of what you want to argue what's at the center of the melanin, whether you're talking about sulfur or selenium, etc. You have to have zero melanin to be white, right? So there is no such thing as a white person unless they're dead. And see, a lot of you don't even catch that. So if you die, you would be white because that's when the melanin begins to leave you, right? But even in that, we have this weird sense of like white is close to like what's on this bowl, when the reality is that, persons weren't calling that white or what you even consider. They didn't even use that word. Even in the Greek, for those of you like the Greek, we're using the Greek word right now. Chloros. Chloros is talking about something that's more green or yellowish. Even when we talk about the color of wheat, wheat is something, wheat that's lost its color after it's basically, it no longer has life, right? And it begins to die off. You think of that as what they thought of as being so-called white. But white is not a color. Right? So I want to make sure that when we talk about the horseman here, this horseman who is usually described in certain circles as a so-called white person, how you doing, Sister Shirley, that's not an accurate statement. This is somebody who's sick. This represents sickness. This is a sickness, as some would say, right? This is somebody who's sick. There's something sick going on. We now got into a place where sickness is part of the war plan, right? So the first horseman is supposed to be the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. They go around, they conquer for the sake of conquering. They even wear the crown. And right, then they put somebody else out there who has a sword out of their mouth, right? The second horseman, who's on the passionate horse, the red horse, and they use this passion and they have a sword out of their mouth that causes them to do what? They go ahead and they come in and they use a false version of the sword that's out of Christ's mouth. It's a false version of the word to get us not just to fight wars, but to fight one against the other. Well, go on, Audrey, how you doing? And so in the fight one against one another, that fight has now become something where now we get to the third horse that we talked about on Monday, the third horseman who comes on and he's riding a so-called black horse. And this horse is in fact supposed to be pricing you out as far as food and regular business or, regular expenses on life. You can't afford to make sure that you have air. It's crazy. How can't you afford for your air conditioning to work? For cool air, but somebody charges you to make sure that your air is cool. Somebody charges you. Like you could just say, hey, one-time fee. We have a machine in there, and if you need to be fixed, maybe we'll charge you for the machine. But they say, no, we're going to charge you for the air you breathe. We're going to charge you for the water. We are going to mess up the water that you have and pollute it. And then we're still really going to just sell you polluted water again. But we're going to tell you that it's clear, and then we're going to sell you electrolytes, and we're going to put a bunch of sugar in there. We're going to put all types of pork product in there. We're gonna do all types of stuff, and then we're gonna feed that to you as well. And we're gonna give you a bunch of sugar, false coloring, all this stuff, and put a bunch of sodium in it as well, and then put a bunch of sugar in there and say, hey, these are electrolytes, but really you could just have water, and you can put lemon and lime in there, and some salt, a little pinch of salt, and you could have all the electrolytes that you need. But we're gonna mess these things up and get to the place where now here comes pestilence. Now here comes sickness. Now we can use sickness, even sick mindsets, right, to be able to come against the people of Yah and cause persons to never come into who they are. Remember, we read in 2 Timothy chapter 3 that you can, if you're not careful, you can become a person who's ever learning and never coming into the knowledge of truth. And many persons are always learning. You're always scrolling. You're always doing something, but you are not really intimate with something to the point of being able to identify it and living it. How you doing, Jalen? Is it Dotaz, Dotaz? Thanks for being on, being part of the community. All right, so many persons have become ever learning, but never ever learning, always learning something. Can always tell you this and that. Can tell you, hey, did you see this on this show? Did you watch this thing on YouTube? Hey, what do you think about this link? Blah blah. But always learning, but never able to come into the knowledge. Never able to actually use it to identify what's actually going on. Ever learning, no identity. How you doing, Tyrone? Thanks for being on. Right? Ever learning. Many persons are ever learning, but never able to come into the knowledge of truth. So here we are where we see now in Revelation. With no commitment as well. Yeah, sure, no commitment. But committed to doing a bunch of stuff. Nothing that'll help you to identify truth, identify Amat, identify who you are, identify what culture is, identify language, all these things. Everybody's ever learning. But can you give me something that helps me to identify? If you say, right, if you're one of these persons and I'm one of these persons, if you're one of these persons who says that this is hidden and this is what it's supposed to be, then question for you, how is it that you cannot use it to identify a whole bunch of wrong that you're still into? How is it that this is supposed to be, that you're supposed to follow the way, the truth, and the life, and when somebody tries to hold us accountable, we can't even tell the truth? Ever learning, but never able to come into the knowledge of the truth. Not trying to get on anybody. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it don't, take it off. But I've been this person to where I've ever learned it, and I can tell you this and that and all this stuff. Thanks for being part of the community, Tyrone. Appreciate you. And all these different things. And yet, when it comes time to live it, when it comes time to see the dividends, when it comes time to where this actually feeds your family, or when it comes time for your business to run, or when it comes time to supporting your fellow man, or when it comes time to seeing a legit change in your life, one that causes others around you to want to be greater, we have no way of being able to see you ever come into the knowledge of the intimacy with it. You said how many Psalms are there in the Bible? There's 150 divisions of Psalm, I guess. And even some of those technically are broken into different places, right? Like Psalm 119, 22 characters, stuff like that. Where you're supposed to break down, really Psalm 120 through 134 is 15 songs of degrees, 15 steps, right? And of course, if you're talking about Psalms as far as saying, are there poems and different things in other places in the Bible where there's more than just in the divisions of Psalms. But I got to stick to this real quick. So, you got 179? Cool. So, in all these different things, it depends on how your Bible's presented. It depends on what version you're reading. We had to, and some of them aren't necessarily whatever. But anyways, so I'm sorry. But we just got to go through, where are we at? I'm sorry. So we're ever learning, never coming to the knowledge of truth. Ever learning, but never able to come into intimacy with Amat. Right? No problem. It's not you. I can get back there. I promise you, it's not a big deal. Right? So always learning, but then when we say, okay, what's the truth about it? Always learning, but when we say, what does your family do with this? Always learning, but when we say, okay, how does this help us out of poverty? Right? Always learning, but when it comes to, okay, well, what are you doing to shut yourself off from the world? Why do you sound like you're part of two gangs too? Why do you sound Republican versus Democrat or Democrat versus Republican? We're always learning, but never able to come into the knowledge of truth. How you doing, Jonah? Right? Praise Yah for you. I see you. So, and once again, we're focused on Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 and 8 today. So, So the fourth seal. So I'm sorry. So before we get back there, so we have these four horsemen. The first horseman conquers for conquering's sake. The second horseman is does not have a crown, but uses the word and also uses war tactics to get us to fight against ourselves, Williland syndrome. The third horseman comes through and makes sure that now we are priced out of things. We're so busy fighting against each other that now we don't even have the ability to be like, wait a minute, we were so busy fighting each other, we didn't fight the corporations that now have it to where we can't, we don't know how to make air conditionings, even though we created them. We have no clue how to make them, but somebody else makes what we patented, right? We don't know how to conduct. We have Lewis Lattimore, but we don't know how to make our own lights. We made the cell phone, but somehow, some way, we have no access to the satellite, right? We've fought each other so much that we were willing to work with the oppressor, and then at the same time, now here we are when we've been locked out, right? Created the refrigerator, but can't keep food. We're around and we as Israel even. How many we are farming? We're a farming people. We're people of the soil. We know how to make sure that we watch over what we eat, and yet we don't know how to do anything when everything breaks down and it snows. We're like, hey man, better make sure you go to the store and pack everything up, because what else are we gonna be able to eat, right? Wouldn't know how to, do whatever. And sometimes even when it takes tough seasons or whatever, we don't know how to say, you know what, I could make a stew out of some bark, or what about roots and making tea out of this, or what about making sure that we can have stuff and we freeze dried, et cetera, et cetera. We don't think like that. So here we are controlled by these horsemen, right? And the first horseman, when it came to the conquering, one who conquers for the sake of conquering, we're supposed to look through the prism of the first beast. The first beast is the lion of the nation of Judah, right? The second beast that comes through and comes with that false word and everything, we're supposed to look at it through the prism of the Most High, of our Father, and stop looking at it through the prism of those who have enslaved us, right? Going back to Kemet and having a Kemetic mindset that causes us to build golden calves. The third beast, or the third horseman, rather, the one who takes over things and starts charging us and pricing us out of things that are basic human necessities. We should make sure that we look through it through the prism of the Son of Man. How did Christ want us to look at things? How did Christ want us to talk about finances? How did Christ want us to obey the law concerning what we gave and storing aside things and putting stuff in the storehouse, etc.? Right? And now we get to the fourth horseman, right, which is the fourth horseman we're talking about today, with pestilence and all these things, gangrene, yellowish, very sick, disgusting things that are happening and that are happening with us. And we'll go deeper into pharmacy and pharmakia and all that today as well, right? But we have all these things going on. The prism we're supposed to look at that through that in is endurance, or is the prism of the eagle, right? The governance that happens with the eagle. Isaiah 40 verse 31 tells us that we're going to mount up as eagles, right? When we're going through. Matter of fact, let's go to Isaiah chapter 40 real quick. Let's do that real quick. Let's operate creatively. Who's only original minor storm guy? Yeah, that's a bad thought process. That goes into that whole Elion, which is a bad thought process, because if you know the original language, Elion means something completely different than what they're talking about in that. And if you're talking about even persons who use the argument that nobody actually believed in monotheism first, they believed in polytheism, which is really weird. Even if you talk about an evolutionary mind, you start with one and then you go to many. With that being said, Al Elyon, Alacham, even if you know how to write things out, right? Alacham is literally 3-in-1, coming to one, who leads you in 3-in-1. You can't have the title of Alacham unless we're talking about that. So when you talk about Yahweh, which is Yahweh, or you're using the Yahuwah, which is where you get the Yahweh, in somebody else's dialect, say it Uah, that's more of a Greek and Latin. And some African dialects have a U sound, right? But you're dealing with the character Uwa, W, instead of W, right? Which is where you get the W from. It's really W. That's how you're pronouncing it, Uwa. And so if you're going to do that, you have to make sure that you're recognizing that that was something that was changed by somebody else who's trying to worship a fake version of what we worship. That being said, no, that whole minor storm thing and all that stuff, it doesn't carry weight the further back you go, especially if you're talking about monotheism, because if you do the math, what is it? If you go to Moses, the time of Moses, if you go to a few pharaohs before Moses, guess who your pharaoh is? It's King Tut. Guess who's the pharaoh before King Tut? King Akhenaten, Pharaoh Akhenaten. So Pharaoh Akhenaten believes in one, which means that this whole mindset that, because Moses is the first one to get the name Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahweh, etc., right? So you're going to have a problem with that, right? Because he's bringing it back to one, and even what's his face wants to be worshipped as the main spirit, as Ra and Ramses. This is what the 10 plagues are against all these different netchers, because they didn't have God. So you got to be careful. It's a different culture. But even those netchers and the way they operated, he was saying he was the one true Ra, because he was trying to basically take over from what Akhenaten did, allow what Tut happened, but then basically make it his own. When you talk about Ramses II, right? So we have a lot of interesting behaviors that you're talking about that don't necessarily match up, right? So you're kind of already messing up, you know. But thank you for that. That's not exactly what that is. But you have to recognize, you know, that when you're coming through there and the prism of there was monotheism, came after polytheism and all that, it doesn't hold water, right? It doesn't. It doesn't. Sorry to say, not trying to come against you, not trying to be mean. It doesn't hold water. You can't say that polytheism came before monotheism and that nobody ever considered monotheism, when you literally have a pharaoh that's two pharaohs, or like three or four pharaohs before Moses. He's saying, I am going to say he's saying he's not even a netcher, and there's only one netcher that's worthy of worship, and that's monotheism. So that means they had an argument about it already back then. And then when Moses shows up, he says it's about one. And when Pharaoh says, I don't recognize that one, he's saying, I am the one, until he, supposedly being the son netcher, he is up in heaven, or who he is in heaven is ending up being jacked up, right? Because the earth loses, or at least overcome it. It becomes completely dark for 3 days, right? And then after that, he says, I'm going to off you guys. I'm the netcher, whatever. And then his son gets offed. By his own word, it comes against his son. So it's a bad, it doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't make sense. And then they don't, right? And then that name, Yahweh or Yahweh, doesn't exist yet. Still, you have to wait until, well, no. At that point it does. But it doesn't even exist until Exodus chapter 6, really Exodus 3. But Exodus 6 is when they tell you that, hey, before then, he was only known as Elohim Shaddai. So even what you're saying doesn't make sense. Nobody knew. Abraham didn't know him by that name. Isaac didn't know him by that name. Jacob didn't even know him by it. It's not until you get to Moses that he actually reveals Yahweh, or Yahweh, if you will, unto persons. So, yeah, you got to be careful with that. Now, when I'm saying W or W is just the same thing. W is two V's, right? Double V. W, double V, boom. If it's W or W, you just curve it, right? It's different cultures, different Germanic ways of saying the same thing. As a matter of fact, in some Germanic situations, they don't have the ua sound, but, you know, as it's adopted, they have a va, and so they put two vas together to make it look like the u, and then in their mind, okay, our W sounds like their W. That's ultimately what I was saying there. Anyways, that's a little nerdy. That's a little nerdy, though. But that being said, and all these different things, right? And by the way, it's Aman, you know, so the a man and a woman, you know, I guess persons think, but once again, our Father who art in heaven is neither male nor female. Holy Spirit is referred to as a she in the Bible, actually, or she in Hebrew. If you know how to speak Hebrew, even ancient Hebrew, is a feminine spirit, but it's not a female, right? The only person that was male is Christ, because he was a male on the earth. Right, so just putting that there. But once again, see, we have a false rhetoric and a false horseman, the second horseman, who's taught us wrong, and we fight against each other over these things. Not saying you guys are fighting per se, but just saying we've been taught to fight against each other so much that we don't actually go back to see the origin and what these persons believe. Because if something is properly interpreted, it means you cannot interpret it, right? As far as it's my interpretation, I don't know. The interpretation is, what did they say? I'm interpreting what they said, not what I wanted to say, but I'm interpreting what they said. So if Moses is saying something, I need to know as close to the original as I possibly can, because I need to see what he said, right? And I need to know if we're doing something in ceremonially, why are they doing that, et cetera, et cetera. You said it was proved that God was in effect, and he was showing, well, yeah, the Elohim was in effect, and then he was showing that he had no power, right? So, and all these different things that are going on, we have this bad mindset. So now we get to this fourth horseman, as we're talking about today, the gangrene and all that stuff. The gangrene, the yellowish horseman. And there's a couple words I just want to break into before we start even going deeper. Right? It's important that we get this, by the way, because these are the first four seals, these first four horsemen, right? The very first thing that's going to be unsealed. So this message is supposed to be to seven assemblies, scattered, which represent us as a nation being scattered around the earth. And those who have an ear to hear will hear this, getting exactly what Yehoshua wants, because it's not our revelation, it is his. And as we receive this revelation, this chazan, right, this thing that we rejoice in, we need to also recognize the signs. And the first thing, right, we once we realize that Christ is the only one who can open the scrolls. And how you doing, Sister Beth? And I apologize, I was feeling under the weather. I think you sent me something. I saw it a little bit, but I just realized I don't think I ever came back to it, so forgive me, right? How you doing, Leanne? So with all these different things that are going on, right, when you open the fourth seal, I heard the fourth beast say, come and see. Once again, interactive. So don't just talk about it. Come, walk towards it, right? Don't shy away from this. This is something you need to be partakers in. Come and what? And see. You have eyes now, right? That you might be able to see. That ayan, right? That you might have proper vision. Okay. So come and see. So as we walk towards this, then we come and see, or as John does, right? John tells us that he saw the pale horse, this green, yellowish horse, and his name, the authority that he had, that sat on him, was death. Now, this word death here is interesting, and it's been changed over time to mix a whole bunch of Christian values and things, but in its origin, this word is something that you guys are actually familiar with to a certain degree. And this is why you have to know how much things culturally are not only taken from the Bible, but taken from different things that exist in different times. And the Bible is speaking on a level that maybe sometimes we're not as prone to hearing, and we think that we're inept or something's wrong with us, and why are we missing things when we don't have certain things? This word, even in the Greek they're using, is this word thanatos. Now I'm telling you in the Greek, because in the Greek they're using a different type of thought process concerning death and concerning hell. That's why they're going to say, and death, his name was death, and hell followed with him. Although, how does hell follow something, right? What do they mean hell follows something, right? You got to realize there's something different culturally going on, right? How does hell follow somebody? We're talking about a Greek context, right? And even not just a Greek, we're also talking about a Norse context. Who is hell? Where do we get the term hell in Norse theology? And what do they say, who is hell in Greek or Greco-Roman theology? How you doing, Brother Cole? Oh, I never called you. We need we need to talk. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize I never called you. I was going through some things, but still I could have talked. I just never came back to it. All right, so there we go. How you doing? How you doing? Shanae OMG? Is that you got it right? Yeah, Shanae OMG. All right. So in Greco-Roman theology, you're talking about Hades. That's not biblical though. You see somebody change that. How does Hades follow? How does Hades follow? Hades, because in Greco-Roman theology, Hades is a person. By the way, Hades is not in charge, if we want to use this term hell. Hades Hades happens to live there, but Hades can come and go as he pleases, and Hades is actually not supposedly a bad person per se. Hades just happens to be, or well, he was tricked into it by Zeus, I guess, depending on which version of their theology you want to read, or their mysticism, their myths and stuff like that you want to talk about. But the reality is that Hades is not even a bad person, which is why a lot of you watch stuff like Lucifer on Netflix and stuff, where it's trying to tell you he's not such a bad person. Matter of fact, if he was listened to by his father, right? This is somebody twisting stuff together. You guys even think Lucifer is an actual name of the devil. The devil has no name. When the devil lost his authority and was kicked out, he lost his authority. When you lose your authority, you lose your name. This is why we don't call him the S word that you guys use. We have to say Atsatan, or some of you say Etzatan, or Chasatan, or the Satan, because he has no name. We don't give him authority in any way, shape, or form. He lost it. I know it's him, right? So we have this thing going on where, once again, things are twisted, right? So you have it here, but you have a very Greco-Roman mindset, a Septuagint, if you will, mindset to where the Bible has been changed and is being written, and you're using something that's been changed over time. We don't really know what his name was, and we're not trying to find out. At least I'm not. So if you need to find that out, figure it out. I'm not trying to come against it, but I'm just saying I'm not trying to find it out. But he has no name. He's nameless. He's known even in many circles that are Hebrew. I'm not talking about just Hebrew Israelite. Hebrew circles, Shemitic circles, Israeli circles. A lot of times he's known as the nameless one. So that's just a cultural thing, right? We never would have said his that and try to give him a name or try to give him an authority, right? Authority is crucial. What you name something. That's why you recall all those shows back in the '80s and '90s and stuff, and Family Matters shows. I don't know if they ever did on Family Matters, but shows like Full House, Family Matters, all these things or whatever. And somebody would like one of the children, Fresh Prince. I think they did it on there too. But the dad who was always a bumbling idiot of some kind, never wanted he never wanted a pet or a dog or whatever, and then they find the dog, they bring it in, they try to hide it the whole episode, and finally dad would find it and he'd be like, no, get rid of it. They'd be like, no, we want Tom, actually, excuse me, I don't want to say somebody's name just in case that the person stay. I'll say mine, we want Kofi to stay. They'd be like, you named it Kofi, now we gotta right now we gotta keep it because you gave it a name, right? But in essence there's truth to that, right? Even though it was a little point that they were using on different television shows, and they've used a lot since. But it's a reality. Once you name something, you authorize it. Like now, it's been given a space. So that when the devil is cast out of heaven, he has no authority, right? He can only do right. And when he's cast into the earth realm, again in Revelation chapter 12, right, it's over. The only thing he has authority over. Right, remember he even lost authority when he did what he did as a serpent, and that's why he's referred to as the serpent, the same serpent that now we see much bigger in a different period. Might have even been the same size, who knows? But we see him take on a certain form in Revelation chapter 12. All right, Brother Thomas, you be safe out there. Right, so there's a lot of stuff that we have to get, and we have to recognize, and we have to see what's going on, right? That we've been mistaught, and so we have a bad context. So when we talk about hell here, and they say hell follows, that's because the Greco-Roman mindset, right, now you're starting to see attached to this part of scripture is, well, you're talking about Hades, or the reason why you also call hell is because in what you guys know it from maybe comic books or the MCU, Marvel Comics universe and movies and all that now with Thor, but the female god or goddess named Hela, that's where you get the word hell. And when you even use this term, when hell freezes over. Hey, how you doing, Sister Taylor? When you use this term, when hell freezes over, right? For those of you who know that term, when hell freezes over, we'll do it. I want you to do this. I'll never do that, even when not when hell freezes over. That's because in Norse theology, hell, or when persons die and they go down, if they don't go to Valhalla, right, and they come down, they're frozen in time. So they're not on fire. And Hela actually ended up going down, once again, not because she's a bad goddess or whatever. She ends up going down there because she's down in hell. She's down in hell. I'm sorry, somebody needs to be down there to watch the bodies. Same thing like Hades. Hades is down there. Somebody needs to watch the bodies, but Hades goes back and forth. Hades goes on vacations with his wife, the same wife that he actually kind of tricked or forced to be his wife, but whatever, he goes on vacation, does all this stuff, like he moves, he can show up in, I'm about to say Valhalla, that's wrong. What is it, where Zeus and them are? Mount Olympus, right? He can show up to Mount Olympus and do all that. So both of them are very similar, one being a male, one being a female. So when it says hell followed him, you have to realize that that's not talking about what you and I are talking about. Now here's another one. Comic book persons will get this reference right off the bat, but don't realize that you're talking about Hela, a woman, right, who represents death or watches over the persons who are dead. Also, what's going on here that's been changed is that when it uses this term death, the term they're using is the Thanatos, which many of you just know as Thanos. Yep. If you don't know anything more than just the memes about snapping and all that or whatever, Thanos is Thanatos. And Thanatos is infatuated with death. And that's where a lot of persons have their mindset. They're not talking about, we're not thinking as far as what we would believe. We're thinking about what somebody else would. Hey, Brother Jay, early Shabbat Shalom to you. How you doing? Right? So I'm going to say it again. Thanatos is where you get the term Thanos. Many of us just know about him being snapped away. But Thanatos is the word that they're using here for death. Now it's flipped in modern telling of it because, well, if you don't know, I think that they were going to do it, but they decided not to, and probably would have messed up their plans that they had and everything to try and do all that. But in the comic books, Thanatos, death, is actually infatuated with Death, who is supposed to be a woman, sometimes shown as a skeleton, sometimes shown with flesh falling all off or whatever, but Thanatos or Thanos is in love with death, literally death, but it's made to be a female in the Marvel Comics universe. So Thanos runs around and all the stuff he's doing, including why Thanos is trying to snap away half of everybody and try and get rid of all life, or at least half of life, is not because he's trying to just be like, well, it would be better for everybody anyways. He's actually doing it because he's in love, literally, with death. That's why his name is Thanos, but it comes from Thanatos. Thanatos means death in the Greek. So that's where that comes from. So our thought process is very Greco-Roman into their mythology, and that's why it says hell follows, because technically what they're saying is Hela, who is supposed to basically be the female death, right? The one who watches over. Thanatos and her, in their belief system, have this thing where they go back and forth with each other. You see that? How you doing, Universal Triumph? So, and thanks for being part of the community. So that was actually changed, and the mindset over time has changed concerning death and hell. Now we know this, number one, because if you simply look in your Bible, Revelation chapter 20, we talked about this before. Nobody is in hell. What we call hell, Sheol. Nobody is in hell until the first person that will be there is the devil himself. In time. Now, we're not talking about eternity. And eternity, yes, what's happening then is happening right now. But if you're talking about in time, the first person that must go to Sheol or Sha'al or hell, Hela, if you will, is the devil. So until the devil goes there, right? See, here's another thing that we have messed up. Once again, we have the wrong thought process. I'm sorry. I don't know what that has to do with what I'm teaching about now. But what is this? What is this? Very soon, do you think God's own son, which once again, I don't worship God, I worship Elohim, but okay, went to the cross and died horrible death, so you could keep on sinning? No, you must repent and beg to be forgave. Many called, few chosen. I mean, yeah, I guess you're pretty much on it. Thank you for that. I don't know what that disagrees with what we're saying, but okay. You all right? You got that out? Okay. All right, thank you so much for making the point and saying it in all caps. You were yelling that thing. Make sure we got it. All right. We're with you. All right. So, in all the things that we're speaking on, what we're speaking on today, persons have the wrong mindset concerning hell. They have a mindset of Hela. They have a mindset of Hades. That's why a lot of you still say Hades, not realizing Hades is not a place. Hades is a person. Not realizing that hell is not a place. Hela is a person. Is right. These are false spirits, and you should take them out of. I mean, you can learn them, keep them in your verbal lexicon, if you will, keep them in your verbal Rolodex, if you will. For those of you who even know what a Rolodex is, right? And how you doing, PST Brian? Right? You can feel free to keep it there. Just make sure that you recognize what you're saying. If you're talking about hell, you're talking about an individual that you shouldn't really be worshiping or talking about in that fashion, right? But it's another thing that's cause chaos and confusion, manipulation, and keep us away from what the real word actually is telling us, what the truth is actually saying. All right. Yeah, I know. I mean, I used to say Rolodex a lot more, and then I realized like about a year ago, I don't think anybody even knows I mean, I was barely around when we was using Rolodexes. I loved them, but then nobody used them anymore. So I was like, I don't know if anybody even know what that is. I had to stop. Young persons would be putting question marks in there and stuff like that. So this term that we have as far as hell, right, hella is where you're getting that from. And this term, as far as what you're using, as far as Hades, those are both myths. If we're talking about Sha'am or Sheol, as many of you would say nowadays, but now we're talking about the actual place that once again nobody has authority over except the Most High. Would that be surprising to some of you? Glad you're doing well. That might be surprising to some of you that the Most High is the one who has the keys to hell, but that's what your Bible says. And so this weird thing that you've been taught about the devil is reigning over hell, and he's deciding who goes there, and they're using pitchforks and all this stuff to be able to go ahead and to try and come against the knowledge of blah blah, come against those who are in and da. Like, no, that's not accurate at all. The Most High, right, has given Abaddon the keys. That's it. The Most High has given Abaddon the keys, and when He says it's time to open it, then He'll say it's time. Just like He has the authority to speak when it's time to open the seals, and when He speaks, the seals must be opened, then they shall be opened. I ain't doing alone. Right? A lot of us are trying to do all this extra stuff. No, that's not of Yah. No. It's not. Right? That's not in His word. It's not Sabbath. It's not scroll. It's not Terach. It's not doctrine. It's not. No matter how many persons have told us this and taught us this, it just is not. Right? So when you see this, Thanatos is death. That's where they get the word Thanos from. And in the comic, once again, they erase this part. They kind of have the theme of it where he's chasing death. But why is he so busy with this thing? And why is he so like impassioned with it? They don't even tell you really in the comic. What they did was they talked about Thanatos is supposed to be right in love with actual death. So they call him Thanos. Thanatos really would be death. The lady would even be, there's some even versions that say like there's a Thanos and a Thanatos. Right? So that's what you're really dealing with. Okay, so if you're dealing with this, even by the way, another name that you guys will hear of, for example, there used to be considered to be what? How many planets? Some persons would say 10. Of course, there's whatever it is supposed to be the dwarf planets and all this other stuff. But for a while there were 8, and then there became a 9th one. Remember, the 9th one was Pluto. Then there was maybe even the 10th one. Then that one went away, and then Pluto went away. Right? It's not of the solar system. That being said, though, Pluto, if you look at it, Pluto was supposed to be also the same as what you call Hades. So when you even hear Pluto, that's what it came from. And since there were supposed to be these 8 celestial beings, persons forget, Earth is one of them, right? Earth is supposed to be Gaia. And then you have, of course, you have Mercury, which basically is Odin. Well, depending on if we're talking about Norse or we're talking about Greco-Roman, right? But you basically have, Mercury, Venus, which can also be Frida as well. You have Earth, which is supposed Aratsasase, which is supposed to be what's her name? Gaia. You have Mars, which also is supposed to be like the god of war. Really, usually looked at as the male god of war. Sometimes might be thought of as the female one. You have Jupiter, which is supposed to be, depending on if you're talking about. If depending on which story, you're either dealing with Zeus or you're dealing with what's his face, Thor. You have Uranus and Neptune, which are Neptune and Uranus and Neptune. They're actually supposed to be twins. One is supposed to be the waters up high, and one is the waters down low. They both come supposedly born through Gaia and stuff, and they end up being in existence, right? And then after that, you have, and then you were supposed to have Pluto. Pluto was supposed to be Hades or Hela or hell, right? So this is the way they're looking at it. They're not even looking at it the same way you are, right? So these are the things that are there. I think there's one, not Circus, is like Orcus is another one, right? But basically, later on, this word that was used for work, they were using to worship a deity, then it becomes over time something. So this Thanatos, over time becomes something that's synonymous with death. Because if you die, Thanatos is supposed to be the one to come get you, right? So Thanatos, death, grave, all these things, right? and even can include hell. So you have to be careful about these words that have been chosen. Nowadays, they come from somewhere, right? So even when we're talking about Thanatos is dealing with death, and hell is talking about really Hades, which once again even is talking about Hela, depending on the context and which myth you're looking at. So these were not words that were originally used, is what I'm trying to get across to you. Is that we would not have been saying that hell, a person, is running after, right? So this is not a normal saying. This is something that we can tell. Obviously, something has changed because that's not contextual, especially in Revelation chapter 20 tells us specifically, hey, hell is a place, and nobody gets into hell until, right, until the devil goes there. Right now, somebody might say, well, they're trying to be, they're trying to just simply get across the point. They're trying to use, grammar in such a manner poetically that they would be able to get across the point. But no, this is a very Greco-Roman mindset. This is not original. This is the Latin way, right? When it's this pale horse, which once again means green, gangrene, yellowish, right, sickly, right, and the one upon him is death. If we look at the Hebrew term for death, see, now let's do that. Let's look up in the Hebrew. What is death? Right? If we look up in the Hebrew, what is death? Instead of looking at what somebody else has to say about it, when we say death, when we're talking about somebody not just died, but death. Matter of fact, let's go to the death of Abraham, using the same word, same language. When we talk about death, right? We're going to go to Genesis 25. Yes, if we confess, which means to have the same logic of Yahshua, who is the Son of the Most High, Yah, part of the three in one, then yes, if we confess, we too shall be saved. But that being saved, you still have to work towards salvation. Romans chapter 10, verse 10. Right? And work towards righteousness. Just because you're saved doesn't mean you are have salvation or that you're righteous yet. According to Romans chapter 10, 9 and 10. With you. Right? But that's not where we are right now. We're saying if we can focus. We're going to go Genesis chapter 25, verse 11, when it talks about the death of Abraham. I'm just choosing, there's a plethora of places we can go. I'm just choosing the place so that you can see it for yourself if you want to look it up. And so we talk about Abraham, right? And we talk about this thing of death, if you will. What is the context? When we say death, what are we saying? Very important that we get that, right? Chayach, it is what it is, achar, after the mavat. Right? Now, not to be confused with, I guess you say more like, I don't know, I guess when we say mavat, could say mavavat. I think that's extra on there, though. Some persons do that to make a distinction because there is a mavat that means something else. But most of this term is usually going to be used with death, mavat, right? It is talking about, watch this. So when we talk about mavat, we also have to talk about mavat is connected. See, so they wouldn't have said in Hebrew, Chazan in Hebrew, we would have never said, no. So that's not Hebrew. Hades is Greek, right? Hades is Greek. And, I'm sorry. Yeah, Hades is Greco-Roman. Hela is it. So we're talking about actual Hebrew, right? And we're talking about death. Death is going, right? We're going to be talking about, even when it says that he who rode upon, or the person, the death angel, even if you will, we're talking about Mavat, right? So Mavat is different, right? Mavat, I think they say Moveth or something like that, or really they would say Movet, but then spell it Maveth, but Mavat, right? And we're looking at Mavat, especially we're talking about Sephardic pronunciation, right? So we're talking about Mavat. Mavat is dealing with death, even if you're talking about the realm that it's in. So even if you're connecting it to hell, which means that we would have just said Mavat, period. So we wouldn't have said for death and hell, right? Or, death, his name was death and hell rode with him. That's poetic, right? That's very poetic. it makes sense poetically, but that's not, death and hell basically are Mavat. I mean, they're not, it's not apples to apples per se, but if somebody were to say mavat, we understand you're talking about this person is not in hell, but they're in what, how could I say this? I have to be careful because there's so many different comics and different things like that nowadays. There's so many different movies and books, you know, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or Lord of the Rings, and C.S. Lewis books, and all these different things or whatever. So I have to be careful of how I say this, but you could almost look at it like a realm. I think they even describe it like that. I think if you look in your concordance, I think you'll discover that it's. I think it even says like part of the definition is the realm of the dead. Now, the realm of the dead for us is not a place to where everybody's going around, or like the Little Mermaid where everybody can reach up to you, or like in Hades where, you know, or even in the Disney movie where Hercules and you see all this person just kind of swimming around, or in the movie The Mummy where everybody's reaching up and trying to get to the mummy, and Brendan Fraser's character and all that stuff, Rick or whatever his name was, and all that stuff. No. For us, when everybody passes away, they go to a place of sleep. At least those who are waiting to, when we're dealing with the second, getting ready to deal with the second death, they go to sleep, right? And they wait for their time to come up and be judged. That's the way that works, right? So when we say there's this realm or this place of mavat, when somebody's in a state of death, mavat, we're talking about this person is actually in a particular state where they're asleep, right? Matter of fact, in your Bible, we don't even get into that until after the Satan is in hell, and then he's released after 1,000 years, and then he will be judged and thrown into the lake of fire, and so will hell, and so with those who are woken up from all those different places and have to experience the second death as well, instead of getting into Shamayim and getting into heaven. So what you're seeing here, you have to be careful, is that the Greco-Roman mindset and the Norse theologian mindset, right? The Norse mysticist mindset has us thinking of death shows up in hell, if you will, Hela or Hades is running behind, right? And right, death and Hades having this attraction or this marriage to each other, when the reality is we would have just said mavat. We would just said mavat. That means that these places are in a place, right? So when death shows up, it's saying that the state that everybody's asleep in is showing up, or the thing that casts us into the place where all of us sleep. So when persons say, and I know what we mean by it, but when somebody says, "Hey, I'm going through hell," you can't be going through hell. Hell is not open yet. We get what you mean, and I used to even say that. Okay, well, because this person used to come at me, and I say, well, I guess you could say hell is a state of mind. But if we're talking about the actual context of what these persons are saying and what their belief system is and what their thought process is, it's not the same. So you'll see, you know, he had his name was death, and hell followed him. No, like death. If we're talking about a place or whatever, death goes to a place where you sleep, right? Now hell is something that shows up later. So even when persons are saying it, I just want to outline this. Yeah, I'm not worried about any vultures on my shoulder. So that being said, so when we're dealing with this stuff, we have to recognize and realize that, yeah, this word death that they're coming from, this is not talking about those things. This is not talking, that's not what was originally written. That's not even the mindset, right? Remember, before it was written in Greek, before it was written in Latin, before it was written in French, before it was written in English, and before it's written in whatever you get now, it was written Avra, and there were 4 versions of what you call the Bible today written in that, right? Before they even had a so-called Greek version, Septuagint. Okay, you have to realize that. So there's 4 of these things that existed in Hebrew, and when we go back and look through it or whatever, that's not what they originally said. That's not what they originally said at all. You said, so when I say hell is a burning place, well, we want to get into the burning and stuff. Hell right now is not even something that anybody's in. If you're talking about hell burning, you're talking about hell that's thrown into a fire. Now, this gets into a place where we can work on this later on in the series, because if I get too much into it, yeah, we're not even going to get into back into the Horseman. I'm trying to show you something that's been changed over time. But for example, yes, in eternity, there's eternity and there's time going on as well. So now we're talking about time. Nobody's in hell in time yet. And we're talking about eternity. Are there persons burning and has hell been thrown into the lake of fire already? In eternity? Yes. Has hell been thrown into the lake of fire in chronology? No. Right? But yeah, so we know that Christ explains hell, and he explains the eternal suffering of it. He explains what happens after the judgment. He explains how persons even would want to go and talk to their families again and cannot be allowed to, which, by the way, is something we should think about as well. When we have family members who have gone into the state of thanatos, if you will, this place of death, which really is mavat for us, they're in a place of sleep. So even for us that are like, hey, I had I'm not saying you can't have a dream or a vision where your family member shows up, but let's say somebody's like, oh, I'm having my family member shows up all the time, and we have conversations and this and that. Just being honest, that's not biblical. Well, if you say they visit, for sure, but many things can visit you and be able to make themselves look like whatever. Remember, your Bible talks about it. It talks about it as being witchcraft. Remember that there's the witch of Andor. I'm saying Andor. Is that Star Wars? Am I saying it right? I think I'm saying the Star Wars thing. But y'all know what I'm talking about, that witch, right? That comes up. Saul has lost Samuel the prophet. Saul needs a word. The Most High is not with him anymore. He goes to the witch and he asks for her to raise, or not to raise, but basically to be able to talk to Samuel. Samuel wakes up and he realizes, he's like, wait a minute, what's going on? He's like, I'm not supposed to be around. I'm supposed to be asleep. Of Endor. Okay, of Endor. Right? And so he says, like, I'm supposed to be asleep. How you doing, Sister Sheila? He says, I'm supposed to be asleep. That's not supposed to be going on. That he wasn't supposed to be awake. How you doing, Pinky? He wasn't supposed to be awake. So in all those things that are going on, he wasn't supposed to be awake. He wasn't supposed to have access to it. So when we're talking about these things, we're talking about eternity, we're talking about time, we're talking about a lot of different factors that go on, right? Which is kind of difficult to just only get in for today or whatever. That being said, though, yeah, so hell is going to be thrown into the lake of fire, right? The first person to go to hell, chronologically, is going to be the devil. This is all in Revelation chapter 20, right? Then the devil will be released, and then after that, he and his fallen angels and hell and, and those who were followers of him, right, have to be thrown into the lake of fire, right? All those things are so. But chronologically speaking, once again, in time, the first person to enter in where the Most High will say to Abaddon, open up the gates. First person is the devil. First person in is the devil. But I mean, if that's the case, if they're open, then you just got to show, see where it is in Scripture. The gates of hell will not prevail against it doesn't mean that anybody's in there. That is right. That statement doesn't mean the gates are open right now. We're talking about a gate that leads to that gate. There's a big gate with a winding road, and you can do whatever you feel like doing on there. Right? So with all these different things that are going on, right? So in all these different things that are going on, we see that. Now, once again, when we get to tomorrow, we're going to even go into, when the fifth seal is open, you start to talk about even those who are martyrs, who are actually held in a different place. Matter of fact, they're underneath, depending on your outlook, on underneath the throne or underneath the altar, right? So it's different things. Some of it, obviously, we want to talk about as obviously symbolization, too. There's symbolization at work here. So for us, right, so remember, like, context matters. So symbolization, trying to get across to you what's happening in these seals specifically. These are the seals where when they're being open and stuff, that sounds like thunder, right? Being open, but then lightning might sound like something different, or the water speaking might sound like something different, or, the storms speaking, et cetera, right? But we got time. No. There's nothing to apologize for. We got quite a bit of time. We got quite a bit of time. We'll be doing this series for a while, right? So there's a lot of different things that are moving. So those are excellent questions. I'm just saying I got to get it back to get us back on track, or else we won't focus on Revelation 6 verses 7 and 8 at all. Right, but there's a lot of moving parts. So, but I'm trying to get across to you that specifically that when you see this term, as far as you must recognize that they're using and this, by the way, happens quite often. It's not even malicious. Sometimes we go, man, they're changing the Bible on purpose. No, it's important that we try not to change it, but we also must recognize some of these persons are doing their best. See, for the Greek person, once again, how do they get to the idea, or the Greco-Roman, right? What are they thinking concerning death? For them, death is worshipped, right? Death is worshipped and chases after hell. Right? Death is a person, right? The scythe and all that stuff, the hoodie and all that. Death is a person, and hell in hell is also a place or a person that's worshipped. That's why you call it hell. If you were to look it up, right? Matter of fact, watch this. I want to make sure, because I'll be messing this one up, to be honest with you. What is the place that Hades is over? Yeah, okay, I wanted to make sure. That's not the word I was looking for. But Hades rules over the underworld. Now, they try to say it's also called Hades, but that's not true. Hades rules over what you call the underworld. So when you hear a person say underworld or underlord and all that stuff, those are things that refer back to the place that Hades or even Hella would be over. Right? It's located where Sheol or Sha'al would be. Now, for us, Sheol is supposed to be a real place underneath the earth. So it exists right now. We wouldn't be able to get to it. You know, when they say that they dug and dug and dug and dug, and they've only been able to get like a fraction to the way of where they call the center of the earth and all that stuff, we believe that Sheol is a real place, but it's guarded and nobody can even get there. Some would say that that's maybe a more symbolization than reality. Okay, you know, hey, right? But that's so they have that mindset of where it is, but they're thinking of a different. Matter of fact, I think they call it like in different stories, depending. It might even be called like the like Elysium. Some of you think Elysium is supposed to be, you know, like a heaven. Elysium's not heaven. Elysium is the underworld, or fields of punishment, I believe is another term. So yeah, so you're talking about the underworld for them, and so Hades is right. So if somebody says well, it, you know, so for them, they're seeing a Hebrew word, a Hebrew term. They're trying their best to see how to be able to get it from where it is in the Hebrew to where it is in the Greek. We know that, by the way, to be the case. Chazan Revelation was written in Hebrew first. We know that. So what are they trying to do? Okay, they're talking about death, right? Well, the closest thing we have to death, and death being, right, Mavat, for them, being a place where rest is happening, where all the souls rest, if you will, waiting on judgment. Okay, well, what's the closest thing we have? Well, death is a person who says your time is up, and then death is in love with Hades or hell. Really hella, right? It was really more so to focus on the words they're using. So they say, okay, well, we got this. What we'll do is we'll say that death, right, is on the horse, and then we'll say in Hades follows with. So that persons who recognize it in the Greek or reading in the Greek, they'll get the context that both are together. So it's not even necessarily, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the change was made purposefully, or I'm sorry, well, obviously it was made purposefully, but because they're trying their best. They're not even interpreting here. They're trying their best. Like we say, things get lost in translation. This is not even transliteration. No, it's not even transliteration. Things are just getting lost in translation, where they're trying their best to translate. They're trying their best to say, okay, well, death is this place, right? When you die, when you leave, you're in this holding area like you would be, where in Norse theology, hell would literally be frozen and you would be able to see everything but not move. Right, later on, they start kind of changing even the way that they're describing it, and they start talking about with fire and things. So now we're talking about more of what? More of like what's considered to even be Hades, but technically Hades is not a place where they talk about you. Yeah, and so ideas like, there you go, Roman Catholicism pops up, ideas like purgatory, which are not biblical. But once again, you're mixing and matching a bunch of different cultures together, right? Which, by the way, I believe the Pope got rid of purgatory and hell. The last few popes have actually gotten rid of that, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so you're seeing a lot of different things where somebody's trying their best through another prism to say, this is what it is. When reality for us, if somebody were to describe Mavat, we recognize that death is a place where we wait and we sleep. So I'm not even trying to say it's malicious. How you doing, Radio Prince? So I'm not even trying to say that it's malicious. I'm just simply trying to make a statement that this is something that was done, and that I just want to point out to you. So when you see death and hell following, it's somebody doing their best to describe something of origin. How you doing, Elder Tamara? So and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, a greenish yellowish horse, right? And the name, the authority that sat upon him would have been Mavat, which is a place where, basically somebody's trying to take your life and put you in a place where you're going to be held, right? Now watch this though. It actually makes more sense because Mavat hovers over us, and even we can be all the way, or well, we can be alive and be dead at the same time. See, because once you get this context, TJ, whatever we need to do. Matter of fact, we don't need to do anything. I guess it's become a thing where it's public and all that stuff or whatever, and you've been telling persons or whatever. I don't know why it needs to be done publicly or whatever. You've even told lies about me and stuff like that or whatever. We're going to do whatever. I'm not going to do it here. I'm really not going to do it. I'm trying to be nice. Where somebody said that they were talking between us, and maybe I'll do that, but the reality is no, I'm okay with where I am. I'm not teaching Balaam doctrine. I'm not going to have somebody tell everybody that we didn't ever do anything for you, and that's not true, and we have receipts. I'm not going to sit up here and do any of that stuff with you. So if you need to do it here or whatever, you can go ahead, have a great day. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not. All right. I haven't said anything about you for months and months and months of you posting and saying pastors are not even necessary, while saying that you preach and you don't need to be under any guys, or nobody needs to tell you anything or whatever. Right. I haven't said anything at all. I went ahead and just stopped following on Facebook. I still, after all that stuff, still made sure that I sent you money that you sent to somebody else, trying to see if they would be your friend, right, and all this stuff or whatever, while you were busy telling everybody I don't take care of you, anything like that. Like, I didn't help out with your phones ever. I haven't made sure that you got back from persons that you were messing with, that you said that you were led by the Most High to help, and then they were robbing you. There's certain things that we can do public. I'm not going to do public. You've been doing stuff. You've been saying everything that I say is wrong, a lie, blah, blah. I'm here to tell you what the word says, the same thing that I've been saying, right? If you have something to poke a hole in that versus you just don't like me or you wish that I would follow you, so be it. But I'm not doing it. Okay? So you got that much. And I've literally tried to not say anything. You got that much. Okay? You did. All right. The rest of the stuff, I guess I don't know if it needs to be done, but if we're able to talk with somebody who's able to listen to us and stuff like that, I already told them that they need to hear the truth, because you've been telling some lies and telling some whoppers and telling some things or whatever. I don't care how much of Melchizedek you are. All right. So I'm gonna leave it alone there, and you can go ahead and do whatever you want with that. It is what it is, right? I've tried to literally not say anything, and it's just getting to a place where it's craziness. Amen, Sister Renee. I apologize. Just give me a second. All right. Okay. All right. So in all the different things, let's go. Where are we at? Da-da-da. Okay. Where are we at? Okay. I don't know. Okay. So gangrene, and we're talking about power. All right. And you need to recognize, therefore, so what's going on. So you need to recognize, we got to realize that when it's talking about this thing, as far as Mavat, it's a different mindset. Hell is not a thing that moves or this and that. This is a mindset that comes from a Greek translation. It really would have just said death, and we would have known that death is a place to where we're waiting on the return. But it makes more sense now. That's where I was today, and thank you guys for your patience. It makes more sense, right? When power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to do what? To off with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Right? How you doing, babe? My wife is on the audible mind. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, and website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. So this is the stuff that we have to recognize and realize. And no problem. Thank you, love and wellness. Thanks for being on. So when you realize what death actually is for us, and it puts us in a holding pattern. That's what I really was trying to get to. I apologize, hopefully, but I had to put all that stuff out there because now prayerfully the rest of the stuff will start just making sense, right? So when you realize that death is basically a holding pattern where we're waiting for movement. This is why Yehoshua says in John 10:10, right, that the enemy cometh to what? To steal, to kill, and to destroy. But I have come that what? That you might have life. Well, wait a minute, I'm alive. Well, no. You might be walking around in death and not realizing you're in a holding pattern, right? And you might be waiting for something to take you out of it, right? So we need you to recognize that some of us are in this holding pattern of death. We're not talking about death like you're thinking about as far as, I usually describe it like a zombie almost. How you doing, Brother Rodney? Right? To where somebody can be doing the same thing. Oh, get up. Oh, go to work. Right? Maybe feed children. I come back home. Go to sleep. And I repeat the same thing, right? Over and over again. And every once in a while, I have a service. Every once in a while, I get up, every once in a while I travel somewhere and I go, ooh, I feel so alive. And then I go right back into the system where I feel dead, right? But so when we talk about death, mavat, we're talking about something different. All right. So watch this. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. So this is something that is introduced to us here, to where power is given to them over the fourth part of the earth. So that we are scattered to four parts of the earth, right? And now here's four parts. This is going to be important when we get to Revelation 7. It's going to talk about four parts of the earth again. That we are scattered to four parts of the earth. So we recognize this is something that's important. So here we are. And watch this. And so there's a what? There's a pale horse and right, greenish horse. Name is death, mavat, right? And power was given unto him over fourth part. So when we're talking about four parts and scattered, right, and even the seven assemblies scattered and all this stuff going on, we have going to all four. We're going to a part of the earth to where 1%, 1%, 1% are doing their thing, right? To some of us, there in other parts, we're dealing with maybe a combination of them, but we're dealing with at least also two, somebody who's using stuff to get us to fight against each other rather than fight against our actual enemy, right? And something else is popping up to where we're getting something where persons are actually starting to, be outpriced of being able to do basic things. And now we get to a place to where what's being used. Now we're in another part of the earth, or we're dealing with something else that's scattered all over the earth, which is what? Sickness, pestilence, right? Sword is being used. So we have to make a distinction because the sword being used here is different than the sword being used by the third. The sword being used here is a different sword than the sword being used by the second horseman. It's also a different sword being used than the sword being used by Christ, by the word. All right. So a sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. All right. So all these things now are taking us to where we get to hunger, right? To where we're getting to hunger, and we're getting to death, and we're getting the sword, and we're getting to the beast of the earth. So yes, even the things of the earth, the animals of the earth, are being used against us. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought, like, I don't think persons, have you ever thought about the fact that you can change a whole nation and the way that they think just because you do something different with their animals, or you deny them usage to their animals, or you basically off all of their animals? You ever thought about something like that? Now, does anybody recall the prism that we're supposed to be using to look through? Which beast? The fourth beast. Which beast are we supposed to be using from Revelation chapter 4? The prism that we're supposed to use to see what's going on. Which beast is it? Yeah, well, Jonah, to be honest with you, TJ, and I, at least at one point there was a friendship there or whatever. And, there's some things that, regardless of how he feels about me, whatever, that I would still recognize he's going through some things. How he's dealing with it, I think, is different. But just praying for him. It is what it is. It's been at this place probably longer than what a lot of persons think. Hey, what's up, Sean? Sean in the house. How you doing, sir? Man, I ain't seen you in years. I've been to Philly a few times. Hopefully you and your wife are well. Every time I be coming through, I've been trying to hit you up. Can't hit you up no more, man. That's one of the persons used to be part of our youth group when I was still in the church. Man, it's amazing on them drums. Amazing. Savant. He's doing stuff at 10 or 11 that you shouldn't be doing. Yeah, Sean the drummer, he was just on. Yeah, just on. Hadn't seen him pop up in a couple of years. All praises. Thank you for being on, sir. That blessed that touched me. We go back to before, man, we go back to 20. How far we go back? 2010, 2011? Somewhere in there? Maybe 2012? He helped us move into one of the places we were in. When Elder Maya was pregnant. Helped us move into the place we lived in for a little bit before we moved into our apartment, the apartment. Anyways, all praises. I love that. That's hallelujah. That's great when you affecting generations and seeing them grow. Alrighty. So yeah. So it's important that we catch this. So once again, we're supposed to look through the prism of the eagle. And we never did this, by the way. I think somebody started asking me questions about something else, and we never went here. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 40. I don't think we ever read this, did we? We're going to read the whole thing, and then we're going to jump back. Because Revelation chapter 40, verse 31, right, is where we get the main jump-off point that we like, our landing point, right? Which is, but they that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint, right? That's the last verse, though. Let's read Isaiah chapter 40. Later on, we'll get to Isaiah 53, who shall believe our report. Before this, we've already had Isaiah chapter 9. A child was born, a son was given, the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Abba, and the Prince of Shalom. Right, we have all these different things going on. Right, but Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, that's usually where we end. But let's go all the way back to verse 1. All praises to the Most High. If you can turn there with me, if you're able. I'd love to have you join us there. And by the way, we upload shorter versions of these as well as other persons who are preaching on the Kofi Ofori podcast. So when you get a chance, go over there, check that out. When you get a chance to go ahead and check that stuff out. We have a lot of different persons on there giving the word. And you will, of course, be able to get some if you try to give somebody the word and you're like, I don't know if they want to go 3 hours past it, tell them just go on there and they can get a short version of it. All praises. I'm pretty sure we're all caught up, by the way. So anything that anybody's ever preached, unless we had some kind of technical difficulties, anything that anybody's ever preached should be on there. Right? Definitely for the last few years. I think we're coming up on podcast number 1,000 pretty soon. And that doesn't go all the teaching we ever done, right? There's there was another podcast before that. And there was another YouTube channel before this one, and there were other TikTok channels before this, right? But anyways, we're gonna go back to Isaiah chapter 40. So if you ever like, man, I just want a shorter version of these, blah blah, feel free to go through them, right? So let's read Isaiah chapter 40. As we say, Revelation is not just something by itself. This is holy, holistic, going back to one, all being one together, right? So Isaiah chapter 40. Oh, you think about this one, what they did to the buffalo? I missed that, yeah. All right, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 1. Watch this. Comfort ye my people, saith your Elohim. He says, comfort one another. Thus saith Elohim. Speak ye comfortably to Yahweh Shalom. Speak ye comfortably to who? Be comfortable with speaking to Yahweh Shalom and representing Yahweh Shalom. And cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished. Wait a minute. Cry unto her to what? Christ came that there would just be peace on earth, right? That's not what he said in Luke chapter 12. What did he say in Luke chapter 12, verses 51 through 53? Y'all recall? He said, you think that I came that there would be peace on earth? This is Christ. This is in red, if you will. He said, you think that I've come that there might be peace on earth? He said, nay, I didn't come that there would be peace. I came that there would be division. That two in one house would be against three, and three in one house would be against two. He said, basically, it's about truth. Right? Okay, so here we go. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 2. Speak ye comfortably to Yahushalom, and cry unto her. Cry unto who? Cry unto Jerusalem. Now, not pray unto Jerusalem. Get the context. Cry unto her. What are we crying unto her? What are we yelling out unto her? That her warfare is accomplished. We're at war. That her warfare is accomplished. That her iniquity, that her sin is pardoned. For she that receiveth of Jehovah's hand double for all her sins. Verse 3, the voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of Jehovah, make straight in the desert the highway for our Elohim. Now this is talking about Christ now, coming out of the woman. This is Revelation 12. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 4, every valley shall be exalted, every low place, every place that you feel like you're low, it shall be what? Made high. And every mountain and hill shall be made low, and everything that you think is too much for you to handle, it will be brought down. This will be plain. You catch the wordplay? Our Elohim always has bars. Havakudash always got bars. The prophets of Elohim always have bars, right? The way shall be made straight. In other words, if you think that you're not going to be able to make it through, Yah will make sure that he elevates whatever is necessary so you can stand upon it and you won't have to go down those treacherous hills. And whatever you think is too high for you to get through, Yah already promises he'll lower it down. It's going to be plain. Every mountain and hill shall be made low, and crooked shall be made straight. If it's crooked, if you don't know, he'll put it to where, boom, you can just see it straight for what it is. How you doing, Tabitha? And then he says what? In rough places, plain. If it's too rough, if it's too hard, if it's too much, if the texture of the ground is not correctly, he said, I'll make it to where it's easy to step on. You won't have to buy none of them special shoes or whatever. You can use them Apostle Paul 7s and walk right across it, right? And the glory and the heaviness and the weight and the imprint of Yahweh shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. For the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it. There's going to come a time where everybody will see this thing together. That in the name of Yahashua, of things above the earth and under the earth and in the earth, and every tongue will confess that Yahashua, in fact, is what? Is Lord. It's coming. Verse 6, the voices said, cry. And he said, what shall I cry? All flesh is grass, and the things that are to buy thereof is as the flower of the field. And the grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the spirit of Yahweh bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. The grass withereth, and the flower fadeth. But the word of Elohim, come on somebody, shall stand forever. Verse 9, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 9. O Zion, that bringest tidings, get thee up in the high mountain. Now, if you recall this is Ezekiel 34 versus Ezekiel 35, right? Call out the things of Esau. Make sure that when it's time for Maccabees that you restore Mount Zion. You see that? This is context. This is cultural, right? You got to connect these things. O Zion, that bringest tidings, get thee up in the high mountain, Shalom, that bringest tidings, lift up thy voice with strength, lift it, be not afraid, say unto the cities of Yehovah of Judah, behold your Elohim. Verse 10, pay attention, behold, Yehovah Elohim will come with strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. Verse 11, he shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young. Verse 12, who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and have meted out? Yeah, have meted, which once again, like help meet even, or has given out. Remember, if you don't get that reference, even look at Luke 6:38, right? Given it shall be given unto thee, Elohim's measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that ye, M-E-T-E, that you meet, that you give out, right, shall it be given unto thee. So here, verse 12, who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, and meted out of heaven with the span. In other words, he's given out of heaven these measurements and stuff, and comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance. Who is like Yahweh Elohim? Right, shall be portioned out. Portioned out, we could say. Right, verse 13. Who hath directed Ravak at Yahweh, or being his counselor, hath taught him. Who has taught the Most High? Can anybody teach him? Isaiah chapter 40, verse 14. With whom took he counsel, and who instructed him, and taught him in the path of judgment, and taught him knowledge, and showed him in the way of understanding. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket. Behold, the nations ain't nothing but a drop in the bucket, and are counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. He can hold islands like it's nothing. Verse 16, and Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for a burnt offering. Verse 17, all nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing, and vanity and empty. All these things that y'all putting all this stuff in, I'm American, I'm French, it's like that ain't nothing to him. It's vanity. What does that mean in comparison to being in the kingdom? Verse 18, to whom then will ye liken Elohim, or what likeness will ye compare unto him? Who's like him? Who you gonna compare him to? Verse 19, the workman melteth a graven image, and the goldsmith spreadeth it over with gold, and casteth silver chains. He that is so impoverished that he hath no oblation chooseth a tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that shall not be moved. You putting all this effort together and trying to figure out what you're going to worship and carve this up and say this, and you don't even have the ability to really even do the things that you swear you're going to be, but you're sitting up here going under this stuff, swearing that this is going to get you somewhere. Verse 21, have ye not known? Have ye not heard? Hath it not been told you from the beginning? Have ye not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers. It is he that what? Watch this now. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretch out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. He gave you a place to live. It's like a grasshopper needing a place to stay. And he set it up to where, like a grasshopper might have a little case and you might feed him and do stuff or whatever. He's the one who built the case. That's called the earth. Right? Verse 23. That bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh judges of the earth as vanity. Who are these persons unto him? You see how important it is that we have this relationship? Keep on going. Verse 24. Yea, they shall not be planted. Yea, they shall not be sown. Yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth. And he shall also blow upon them, and they shall wither, and the whirlwind shall take them away as stubble. Can I just say it again? That's a powerful scripture that we don't say that scripture quite enough. Right? That scripture's got power, wonder-working power. Right? Right? Watch what the scripture says. Watch what it says. Let's hit this one more again. Right? Just in case you missed it. Here's Isaiah chapter 40, verse 24. It says, yea. So they're talking about princes and all these persons, judges and kings and nations and all this stuff you think have power. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 24 says, yea, they shall not be planted. Yea, they shall not be sown. Yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth, and he shall also blow upon them, and they shall wither, and the whirlwind shall take them away as stubble. Christ himself said it like this. He said, anything that my Father has not planted must be plucked up by the root. Oh, wait a minute, somebody. He said, anything that my Father, that goes for anything, anybody, any situation. He said anything that my Father has not planted, it's got to be plucked up from the root. It takes sometimes when you're dealing with root, you try to pluck something up by the root, you gotta pull. Right? It takes some effort. It takes some energy. You're at war here. There's some things that were put in your mindset. Do you not realize that how did the Russians defeat the Germans as they come in? They have to go back to their root, even though it's not exactly biblical, but they had to go back to Christ. They had gotten rid of Christ, and they had got rid of government, and they got rid of kingdoms. Then also, when it was time for them to fight, they become one. Guess what they did? They said, you got to go back to Christ. They had taken Christ down. They had put Stalin up on their walls and everything. They had to take Stalin down, and they said, put Christ back up. And then they said, when Christ is put back up, you'll discover who you really are. You'll have something worth fighting for again. You got to know who you are. See, there's some things that the enemy has put in you, and if we don't tear down those wicked iconoclast versions of self and versions of the Bible and versions of the Most High, where it becomes difficult to be able to fight these persons. See, these horsemen are not just stupid out here. We always be thinking our enemy is dumb or slow. These horsemen, they know exactly what time it is. You got to pull down. What is it? To the pulling down, doesn't it say this? To the pulling down of strongholds. I know we're in the scripture, within the scripture already. But what is that scripture? Pulling down of strongholds. My greatness. I can't believe I'm forgetting where that is. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 and 5. I'm not even sure what version this is. Okay, it's correct though. I'm not even sure what version this is. Please forgive me. I forget. I'm not sure. But no, this is New King James Version. Right? Watch this. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 4 and 5. It states, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They're not fleshly. That being said, though, they are still what? But mighty in Elohim for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge, the intimacy with Elohim, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Bringing even these things that have been on us, and our thoughts will be brought into captivity to be obedient to Christ. Do you know that you need Christ, right, to captivate you? You have been captivated by the world long enough. You've been captivated by all types of foolishness long enough. You've been captivated by that person telling you things, and you look in the scripture and you look at some background and you look up some words and you look up some characters. You're like, this is not even close to what it was saying. At some point, you got to be able to come out of that and be captivated. Have those things brought back into submission. But submission, see, some of your fleshly ideas need to be brought back into submission. My greatness. Whoever that's for is who is for. Back to Isaiah chapter 40, verse 24. Once again, yea, what does it say? Yea, they shall not be planted. Yea, they shall not be sown. Yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth, and he shall also blow upon them. His wind shall come upon them, and they shall wither. Mess around, let it be an eastern wind. If you know about that wind from the east, that's something else. How you doing, Sister Shima? I'm on all praises, Sister Florence. How you doing? So watch this. And they shall wither, and the whirlwind shall take them as stubble. Verse 25. To whom then will ye liken me, or shall I be equal? Saith the Holy One, saying, Alav Chakodash, saying the Holy Righteous One, saying Yahweh Elohim, saying Elohim Shaddai, saying Elohim Nasa. Right? Who are you going to liken me to? Oh, don't miss that. That's part of the thing that's got you at war with each other and fighting against each other rather than fighting against the enemy. Why are you so busy trying to liken the Most High and compare him to whomever? Who can you compare the Most High to? Well, you know, the way that they talk about it when they talk about Allah, Elohim is not comparable. Well, you know, when they talk about things and Shakimana Buddha, Buddha ain't on the same level. Well, the way that I think about it, your thoughts are not his thoughts, and your ways are not his ways. As high as the heavens are from the earth, are your thoughts from his thoughts, and your ways from his ways. Who shall he be compared to? Said the Holy One. The true Al Elyon that you guys were talking about earlier today. Who you compare? This is the Most High saying, keep my name out of anybody else's mouth in comparison to. Right? Don't put my name in a league. I'm not in nobody's league. How you doing, Brother Jacob? I'm not in anybody's league. I'm not in nobody's league. I know that ain't great English, but it's on time. Right? Don't stop telling me that well, you know, when they worship Gilgamesh, before Gilgamesh was even a thought process in somebody's mysticism, I was. Well, you know, when it comes to those who were religious leaders who were talking to Christ, Christ said, before Abraham, I am. Like, who you gonna compare him to? We keep trying our best to compare him to all these persons, but who is on his level? Why we keep trying to pretend that anybody can be on his level? Who is on his level? Why do you believe that that's actually possible? Why do you even believe that that's a thing? How has that even become a thing in our lives that we believe that somebody can be on the level of the Most High? How can somebody believe in the Talmudic mindset so much that they believe that a priest can out-argue the Most High himself? We're not even talking about Christ, because some of them don't even believe in Christ, right? Come on, nobody greater. I see you, right? Searched all over, couldn't find nobody. Looked high and low, still couldn't find nobody. Shoot, we might have to play that. Somebody had to remind me. I know they say Jesus in a couple times, but we might have to play that, because you need to have that in your spirit. Who is greater than the Most High? Who is greater than Yah? Whose ways are greater than His ways? Whose thoughts are above His thoughts? Who created all things? All right, let's keep on going. All right, I'm sorry. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26. Lift up your eyes on high, and behold who hath created these, that bringeth out of their host by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might. For that strong in power, not one falleth. Why sayest thou, O Jacob? Who's he talking to? Israel. See, we've messed up. We've forgotten who we were. This is not everybody else's revelation. This is supposed to be for you. But because you've gotten into everybody else's stuff, because you went ahead and had that Sardis spirit, and you attached the gymnasium to the, right? You attached the gymnasium, that Hercules and Hermes stuff, to the synagogue, you have forgotten who you are. Why sayest thou, Jacob? Why sayest thou, Jacob? Why sayest thou, Israel? Why do you say and speak, my way is hid from Jehovah, and my judgment is passed over from my Elohim? Why do you speak that Yah is not going to judge you for what you've been in covenant with him for? See, it'd be one thing if he was judging you, you had no clue, but you've been in covenant. So you broke covenant. That's a big issue. It'd be one thing if we didn't have no covenant. See, the only reason you received the curse is because you received the covenant. Uh-oh. I'm trying to just get the only reason why you received the pestilence the way that you do. The only reason why you receive the things that are causing our hair to fall out. The only reason why you receive, now it's not saying that no, somebody has not taken advantage of things, but hear what I'm saying. You put yourself in a position to where you were totally uncovered. That's why you got to get it together. See, unlike others, if you don't get back to the covenant you had, you're going to remain cursed. How dare you think, O Jacob? How dare you speak, O Israel? That your way is hid from Jehovah, and that his judgment has passed over from him, or passed over you, basically. You better get this in order. Everybody else doesn't have this covenant. And by the way, this covenant has to be righteous, because we're going to find that out, I guess on Saturdays when we'll start in Revelation chapter 7, or actually, I'm sorry, Sunday. Oh, all praises. So we'll have extra time. I was hoping we'd have extra time. All praises to the Most High. So we'll do seal 5 tomorrow, seal 6 on Saturday, and then seal 7. Oh man, that's gonna be Sunday gonna be something else, right? We're gonna have time to go through it, because you'll find out that unless you are sealed, see, the unsealing is revealing that you got to learn how to be sealed, authorized by the Most High. Nation by 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 nation. You're going to have to be sealed. And remember who you are. Verse 28, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 28. Hast thou not been? Hast thou not known? Are you not intimate with this? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting Elohim, Yahweh, Bara, right, or the creator of the ends of Aratz, of the earth, fainted not, neither is weary. Watch this. There is no searching of his understanding. There is no searching of why you should be under his standard. Ultimately, he's going to help you out as best he can. But can we have real conversation? I know some persons don't like this because, look, we do Q&A here. Look, we don't mind a person's questions. Look, if persons want to roll out and leave and say all manner of evil against us, feel free to do so. And we'll love you on your way out. We'll pray for you on your way out. We'll help you if you need help. We'll come back to you if you need us to come back to you, or you come back to us. We'll be led by the Holy Spirit, I promise. That being said, I'm here to tell you that ultimately, if you're really looking for me to tell you why the Most High does what he does, there's really nothing we could ever search. There's no searching of the standard that he's under. There's nothing that I really could tell you to give. This stuff that some of y'all think is so deep and everything, the Most High is like, oh, that's nice. That's nice, Kofi. You giving him this. And he's thankful, or not. I don't know. We use the word thankful, but he's appreciative of it, right? But it's not even close to being in him. This is why some things, when somebody says, how do you get this and blah, blah, some of this stuff you're going to get when you're in him and he's in you. He is the standard, right? There's no searching of his understanding. Verse Isaiah chapter 40, verse 30. Even the youths. Verse 29. I skipped over verse 29. He giveth power to the faint. He never faints, and gives power to the faint, to those of you when you get tired. And to them that have no might, when you feel like you about to lose it, he increaseth your strength. Even the youths. Right, we talked about this in the men's meeting earlier this year. Even the youths. All praises to the Most High. Even those who are young, even the young boys, the young bucks out there that you swear, they go for energy for days and days and days, and they don't ever sleep. You're like, man, when is this baby gonna go to sleep? Even the youth shall faint and be weary. And the young men, even as bold and as strong as you think they are, they shall utterly fail. Verse 31, though. But they that wait, that serve, wait. What does a waiter do? If you would wait, don't just stand there, right? But serve. I'm sorry, I don't have I guess I can use this. But they that wait. Welcome in to my house, Yahweh. We have this to give you glory. We have prayer. We have praise for you today. We have brought community together. We've followed your word. We've done all these different things or whatever. Is there anything else that I might do for you? And he says, oh, no problem. Thank you so much for waiting upon me. And now that you've waited upon me, right, I need you to recognize that really what you fed me in admiration and stuff is nothing compared. Now here's your tip. And your tip takes care of your eternal soul. That wait is a total con job? Okay, cool. You said see why? Okay, well, you go ahead and you see. You go ahead and you give. Don't just say stuff randomly. Ad hominem doesn't mean you're wrong, but it's got to be based off of something. So those of us that will wait, right? Because if you're talking about, oh, make sure you don't want to do anything and blah, blah, whatever, that's not what we're talking about either, but you might not know context. It's apparent you don't know what we're talking about. So, but they that wait or serve upon Yahweh shall what? Renew their strength. And this might not be something that somebody else want to hear, but that's okay. I'm not trying to renew the strength of the world. Because we're not supposed to be worried about the world. I'm not saying if somebody's out there and they're hungry, I'm not going to give them no food. But I'm not here to try and heal the world, right? What's that also? Make it a better place, right? For you. That'd be sound great. Mike will be singing. I can't sing, but Michael was singing it behind all. But I'm here to make sure, first things first, who is this written to? Who's in covenant with the Most High? Who is it that he's saying, hey, look, understand, they don't get it, but you need to get this. Who's going to serve him? Is the whole world going to serve him? Oh, come on. Are you waiting for anything else? You hear what I'm saying? Right? They that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. I need you to recognize this. Some of you are serving Yah and you're getting upset because you're like, as I serve him, my whole family gonna come together. How you doing, Brother Alex? That's not what he said. If I serve him, my whole community gonna be changed overnight. If your community is serving him as well, or if you're coming together and making a community with like-minded person, then for sure. But this is not for everybody. How you doing, Missy Tina Turner? Right? Even the youth shall faint and be weary, the young men shall utterly fail, but they is not talking about everybody. They that wait upon Yahweh. A lot of persons will sing songs about him and do absolutely nothing. A lot of persons will preach words and live things totally contradictory to what they preach. A lot of persons will get views and believe that they have served the Most High enough to get served by man, and now they don't even have to worry about serving him. But they that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. Come on. Elder Knight said, I'm a servant of Christ. Come on now. Come on now. Right? I see you, Elder Tamara. This book probably not for everybody. But they that wait upon Yahweh shall renew who? Their strength. They shall mount up with eagles. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. Now, this is important. We're talking about Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 and 8, so especially verse 8. But the whole thing, we're supposed to look at it through the prism of the fourth beast. The fourth beast in Revelation chapter 4 has the head of what? Of an eagle. So some persons say, oh, this is talking about Rome. I'm like, no. Rome, yeah, they like eagles too, but Rome is not within this. So what are the eagles? What are we talking about when we're going to mount up? They that wait upon Yahweh. The prism of that, therefore, is those of us who are governed by our waiting upon Yahweh. Here in Revelation chapter 6, it's talking about that we need to renew our strength and keep serving him in the midst of a time where everybody else is freaked out by seeing pestilence and seeing death and seeing war, right? We need to make sure that we recognize what's going on. Do you not hear what I'm saying? Right? Once again, man shall learn war no more. Cool, but we ain't there yet. And you got to recognize the horses are out. The horses are only out. In Israelite culture, horses only come out during times of war. Right? That's not just Israelite culture either. That's Shemitic culture. That's Mediterranean culture. That's Muslim culture, et cetera, et cetera. You don't just have horses all the time running about. Right? That being said, we are at war. And you must recognize that in these times, they that wait on Yahweh shall renew their strength. Not just they that show up for service. That sounds nice. It feels nice. But if I were to tell you that's the end all be all, I'd be a liar. And as much as there are persons, especially somebody today who's trying to say some stuff about me or whatever, say I'm lying to you and saying this and that, and I don't understand this and that, I'm here to tell you, beloved. I'm here to tell you that they that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. I'm not here to wait upon anybody else but. And persons will be upset about that. That's okay. I'm not here to wait upon anyone else except, matter of fact, watch this. I wait upon you. I wait upon my wife. I wait upon Israel. I wait upon SOC. I wait upon my children, right? I wait upon my spiritual children. I wait upon myself only because I wait upon Yah. If somebody catches that, you're going to catch the rest of it. You're going to catch the tenor of this conversation, right? Hear what I'm saying? I wait upon you because I wait upon Yah. Now, I need you to recognize this because you shouldn't want me to wait upon you unless I wait upon Yah. Somebody going to catch this in a second. You should not want me to wait upon you unless I wait upon Yah. In other words, you shouldn't look for me to serve you in any way, shape, or form unless I serve the Most High. Because if I serve him, he'll turn around and serve me what's necessary, required to serve you. And what's necessary to serve you is not just only what you desire, but it's supposed to go past your desires. Now unto him who's able to do exceeding abundantly above all you could ever ask or think. If I'm in my gift or my calling, whatever that is, it should supersede and go beyond what you're asking for, because you're supposed to show up with only a little bit of fish and a couple loaves of bread, and then you're supposed to walk away with 12 hefty bags of leftovers. Come on, somebody. See, we're in a situation to where we're out here looking for somebody to give us something that makes us feel okay. And the reality is that you need to have something that actually supplies all your needs, including the things that you are not even aware you need yet. Are you aware what you need? So you talking about reaching 7 million persons. How you going to reach 7 million persons and not realize you're going to have to advertise to 50 million? See, you're coming to Yah, and you're coming to him just being like, well, I need. How about this? You supply my needs according to your riches and glory. See, when somebody sends you something, this is why his word has to be what we're on. You should not want anybody using a gift or anybody giving you anything, any little thing, whatever they have to give you. If it's not seeped in Yah, I should not be waiting upon you if I'm not waiting upon Yah. So my love has to go past what you think it will go. That might include, you might not like what this love entails, because even Yahweh chastises those that he loves. But it has to go past it. See, we live in a society today where you're going to need a love that goes past how you feel. You know how I know? Because Revelation chapter 6, sorry, I didn't even finish verse 31, sorry. Isaiah 40, verse 31. But they that wait upon Yahweh shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall what? Run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. You cannot do that by yourself. And just in case that seems to be too much for you, let's not forget right after this, Isaiah chapter 41, verse 1, because we got to keep it in context. Right after it, it says, keep silence before me. That's, come on, somebody. That part don't feel so great, does it? Yahweh said, I'm about to do this thing. It's about to block you. It's about to take you to other places. Do me a favor, though, real quick. Keep silent before me. Serve me. And look, okay, fine, you need to ask about this, blah, blah. But sometimes I need you to just be quiet. Sometimes I need you to hush them lips up just a little bit. How you doing, Brother Yachasab? Sometimes I'm going to need you, how you doing, Sister Sherry? Sometimes I'm going to need you to trust me without speaking back. I let you ask questions, but sometimes you're going to have to be given a word and you're going to have to take it quietly. Sometimes I'm not going to explain every single thing to you. Sometimes I'm not going to explain every little tiny thing to you. Sometimes I'm going to say, go to the right. Just go to the right. Sometimes I don't have time to tell you what's happening in eternity in 75,000 different instances at the same time to make me make a decision. I just need you to know if I say go right, go right. Right? If I tell you love your enemy, I know you want to slap them. I'm not saying if they try to disrespect you or try to really forget disrespect. If they try to hurt you, don't be ready to defend yourself. But if they're not trying to hurt you, I might tell you to swallow your pride, shut your mouth, and serve your enemy. Not realizing that when you serve them, then you serve the least. You serve me. Just be quiet. Oh, somebody don't like that. See how we ended. Everybody would have just been. But don't forget this part. He said, you're going to mount up on eagle's wings. You're going to be at peace. Well, while you're at peace and you're able to do the undoable, you're able to search the unsearchable, you're able to understand the ununderstandable, right? Keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people renew their strength. Let them come near and let them speak. Wait a minute, so this person's coming in and you're going to need to shut your mouth and let them come in and let them speak. Some of you have never been given an opportunity to speak where you were, and you're surprised that every once in a while we say, hey, tell us what you think. Hey, give us your questions, comments, and concerns. Hey, tell us where you disagree. Look, you can disagree. Now, we believe there's a way to disagree. But that being said, some of you are surprised. Hey, somebody says that what we say is no longer true and blah, blah. Okay, if you want to go ahead and listen to them preach, as long as it be the word, listen to them in the word. There should be no Paul and no Barnabas. Really? Yeah. Let the word be the word. Don't just be like, hey, I'm whatever. If it's truth, it's truth. If it's not truth, call it out. If it's truth, let it be truth. Persons are surprised, but let these persons come near and let them speak, and let us come near together. Now somebody don't want to hear this part. Let us come near together to judgment. Let us come near together for what? To judgment. Let us come and make a pact that we will stand on the truth and we're willing to be judged. This is the prism that we're looking at. Now let's go back to Revelation. Hallelujah. Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. Revelation chapter 6, verse 8, we're going to focus on for the rest of the time. Yes, we is. And I looked, and behold, this greenish, yellowish horse, and upon him sat Mavat, sat death, right? And hell followed with them. We already talked about that. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. So what are they supposed to be doing out of these four horsemen? What do? They kill with sword. Now recall, the sword that we talked about earlier is not the same sword. See, now you guys get it. Some of you thought I was just making stuff up in Revelation 6, verse 3 and 4. We're talking about the second horseman. The second horseman does go around and has power and gets us to off one another, right? And he was given a great sword. Now recall though, Yehoshua has a sword out of his mouth, which is the word. So this person uses the word to get us to fight one against another. And within context, because we don't like to stay in context, but this makes a lot of sense within context, because within context, who are we guarded against? Who are we fighting against? Well, we're fighting against stuff like Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, where persons say they are us and are not, but are the synagogue of the Satan. We're fighting against stuff in Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, Balaam doctrine, where our very own are being paid in gold to make sure that there are stumblings, that they make the word something that causes us to stumble, rather than makes the word something that causes us to live. We're dealing with Revelation chapter 3, verses 7 through 9, where Yehoshua says he's the one who is a mount. Hakodash has the key of divide, the key of David, and has opened doors for us that no man can shut, and shut doors no man can open. Therefore, we need to recognize again, there are those that say they are us and are not. They're going to learn how to worship by sitting at our feet, learning from us, and he's going to show the world he's always loved us. See, the context is different. The promise that was made, the token that was made, that's above the throne in Revelation chapter 4, the four ways of governance in Revelation chapter 4, the one who opens the seal, Revelation chapter 5, the ones who are supposed to receive this word, Revelation 2 and 3, the ones who are married to the one who this is his revelation, Revelation chapter 1, the ones who will readeth this and heareth it and keep it, Revelation chapter 1, verse 3, the ones who are sealed, Revelation chapter 7, we ain't even got there yet, right? We're given a word and we're given an assignment in the midst of these wartime situations, to make sure that we recognize that they're trying to do things to get us to kill off one another. But here in Revelation chapter 6, verse 7 and 8, it says that this beast is trying to get us now to kill each other with the sword. This is not just talking about metaphorical. This is not just talking about, the sword represents the word. This is saying, no, quite implicitly, this is saying, hey, this is us taking them guns on them street corners, whereas Deuteronomy chapter 28 says being those bulls on corners and offing each other over a piece of street corner. And as Lupe Fiasco said, tattooing our names in blood as we die for the street. Salah. Are you with me? Are you with me, beloved? You catching it? See, we're not supposed to teach this type of word, because this type of word that frees you, unless you realize in these last days that revolution is something that, as much as persons are ready for it, we fight, but also we're going to be a little more passive in revolution than persons might want us to be. See, we'll have a fight, but we're going to have to fight to make sure first we're separate, we're not in the world. See, and at some point, all of us are going to have to make sacrifices. All of us are going to have to make sacrifices. Right? I'm not telling you need to go ahead, pack up everything, you need to sell everything. No. Let Holy Spirit speak to you. What I'm telling you is that you're living in the last days. And if you think that you're going to be the one who doesn't have to deal with these challenges, you think it's your children that just won't have to, right? What happens is we have put our stock and everything so much in the system that we could not even imagine life outside of it. That's real, right? We put ourselves so much into the system that we can't even imagine life outside of it. We can't. So what's going to happen, and what's been happening, is that somebody going to come through and they're going to talk about, stocks, and they're going to talk about, taxes, blah blah, and they're going to have, and what happens is what we start going to this whole thing where we're marching with everybody else, and we still have yet to say, what do we need to do to build up what Yah told us to build? Jeremiah 29:11. You love Jeremiah 29:11. Go back to Jeremiah 29:4. It said, sell your cloak and buy a sword. Mm, mm. How you doing, Brother Dwayne? Right? We're so invested in the system that when it comes time, it's going to be like, all right, you ready to do this? Your babies need this. Well, I would, but I got to make money, blah, blah. Yeah, you can, but why not have something separate? Everything that's going to happen to you in Jeremiah 29:11, if you go back to verse 4, it says you're supposed to, see, the problem is that it says you're supposed to build homes and live in those homes. It says you're supposed to have children, and your children should be able to intermarry within your community, right? And I'm not just talking about color; I'm talking about nation. What happens is that we are so into everybody else that we don't have these things, and so we want Jeremiah 29:11, not realizing that we're not even obeying simple stuff like, hey, we're of such a cursed mindset that we don't actually make sure that our children think it's important enough to make sure that they are in love with the word so much that if somebody doesn't live up to the word, then they won't live up to their standard. Remember, I just said earlier, you shouldn't be listening to me if I preach something and I don't wait on Yahweh, then don't wait on me at all. You shouldn't serve, and I know somebody says serve, just get the context, right? You shouldn't serve or wait on anybody in any way, shape, or form if that person doesn't wait on Yahweh. And you shouldn't allow me to wait on you. Because if I'm waiting on you, but I don't wait on Yah, then what I wait on you is something short of the glory of Yah that's supposed to be upon your life. So watch this. When you call me up and you say, Pastor Kofi, I need to talk about this and such in my family or whatever, then that's waiting on you. I'm waiting on you. So if you're calling me up because you're looking for me to give you the word, but I don't wait on Yah, then you shouldn't be listening to me. How you doing, Sister Anastasia? You shouldn't. That's just, I know we don't want to hear that. It's real talk. If I'm not going to live righteously, you shouldn't wait on my unrighteousness. All right. So it says we're going to begin to off each other with the sword. We only talk about the pestilence part. No, we're going to off each other with the sword. And with hunger. See, in the horseman right before this, if you recall, right, Revelation chapter 6, verses 5 and 6, right before this, the horseman on the black horse, he was out here making sure that he was raising prices on stuff so much, and you done forgot in the midst of all this stuff, instead of being who you were, making sure you knew how to feed yourself and live off the land and, create, have herbs and different things like that and know how to do things correctly, because we got in everybody else's system now. Something bad happens. You don't have anything to take care of yourself. What are you going to do? Everybody's like, we're going to eat better. But how can we eat better? We don't have anything. That's why this land manifestation stuff it must happen. It's already happened, but it must happen as far as growth this year. I'm so serious. Hold me accountable, right? I don't know if I'll be able to send it out to 5,000 persons. But hopefully, no cap, 50 to 200 persons somewhere in there. I'd like to be able to send something out, especially to those who gave, to be able to say, hey, you see this stuff that you've been doing? Bare minimum, this is stuff that we know. This is how it grows, blah, blah. You can grow this in your own place. Right? And hopefully take that same stuff and be like, hey, I wanted to send that to you because this year, we're going to sell some of this stuff. And we're going to sell it. And you're going to see that we actually make a profit. We're working towards what we said. And possibly, if it really be, I might be going ahead, but hey, if it really be Yah's will, maybe even a couple persons. Now, look, everything ain't set up yet. I got to make sure that you guarded and you're safe and all that stuff, and that understand that you dealing in the wild still a lot. That being said, hey, shoot, might be able to come over as a couple of y'all come through for a couple of weeks. Let's roll up our sleeves. And there's even persons offering us other opportunities for other things as far as land and things like that. Those things we'll see. Right? But we got to start thinking about things as a nation. They're using the sword, the physical sword now, to get us to off each other. You said, no. So yeah, that's not a silly question at all, brother Alex. Great question. So we were talking about the sword. The sword, as far as the word being misused, is actually that's what I was saying earlier. The second horseman misuses the word. That's why it says he's been given a sword. He uses that to get us to off one another. Right? But this horseman, the fourth horseman, uses a physical sword. Right, to where he gets us to actually, take out them. I can't say the words without getting a flag or anything. So we take out that pew pew, right? We take out, a few of them things or whatever. We began to have gang culture and gang mentality take place, or we start to fight over street corners and things like that. So yeah, definitely with that. So this fourth beast is that physical sword, but also with hunger. And by the way, just like we talked about the other day, we even talked about today in 2 Timothy chapter 3, to where persons can be ever learning, but never coming to the knowledge of truth. Have you ever thought about the fact that a lot of us are starving, even though we're always eating? We're ever eating, but never getting full? You ever thought? You're right. It's the same. What they're doing with the word, they do it with the food. Both of them, both of them are things that we eat. One more in the spirit, one more in the flesh. They both affect each other through the soul. Right? You know what's interesting? And I'm not saying this, and obviously I still, I'm getting better, and I still can't get rid of my side pieces. No, I don't have no side pieces. What are these? What you call them? Love handles? I don't want to say that word. Excuse me. Forgive me. But I can't get rid of my love handles yet. I will, right? But in the meantime, like I'm getting there. I'm getting better, getting a little strength, getting a little muscle back and stuff, and even digestive system doing a lot better and all these things. But even in all those things, I've realized like the stronger I get in my walk spiritually, it almost demands of me that I have to be different in what I eat. And the stronger I get in what anybody, has that been your experience? Like the stronger I get into the spirit, that's why I had to change it up. Sorry, babe, my fault. My love handles, I don't have any of those. That wasn't a slip of any kind, whatever they call it, that Freudian slip or whatever, right? But has anybody ever noticed that like as you eat different, or I'm sorry, as you grow spiritually, you eat spiritually different. It's almost a demand on your life. Daniel was a strong man. Yeah, it's almost a demand in your life. Like your eating habits have to change. But once again, it goes with culture. Because in this culture, you can't eat different. See, watch this. So the person who says, "I'm gonna keep eating them chitterlings and the pork rinds and pork this and pork that and shoulders and hog cheese, hog head cheese or whatever, all these different things and parts of the pig." I don't think you recognize that the more you grow in the spirit puts the flesh into subjection. How are you saying you're growing in the spirit, but there's no change in the flesh? I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to make nobody sick. I'm just saying, right? How you have all this change in your spirit, but there's nothing in your flesh? Isn't the flesh supposed to be in subjection? But see, the fourth horseman, all these four horsemen working together. Recall, the first horseman, the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, are the ones that are over you. Right? They conquer for conquering's sake, and then they put somebody in place, the second horseman, that comes through, and he makes sure he starts to use this false version of the word to get you to fight against each other. Then you become so busy fighting against each other that you get priced out of basic things to just live. Third horseman, right? And the fourth horseman now is sitting there using this stuff against you to cause true death and true sickness. Right? Like I'm still not all the way where I want to be as far as health concerns and things like that. But I've gotten a lot of my health back. I've got a lot of even with hurting my back recently, and still got a little twinge and stuff. Hey man, I am doing way better. Praise y'all. All praises to the Most High than what I've been doing before. Thank you for the love, babe. And so it's something that changes. And yeah, so even if I haven't had all the physical changes, like the fact that I can walk more, the fact that I can shovel things easier this year, like just shoveling a bunch of snow, it was easier. Even being hurt, I'm healthier, right? And even though I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I used as an excuse being in the snow to eat a whole bunch of stuff that I probably wouldn't normally eat. Even in that, seeing like as quickly as I did, my body got rid of it real quick because I've been on my cleansing stuff and blah blah. And so certain things in me that would allow that stuff to stay, my body was like, no, we get rid of all stuff right now. My body was not letting me keep anything in. I'm not trying to give TMI. I'm just saying, right? Because it's become a habit. Even the stuff that Elder Maya put me on with the green black walnut wormwood complex, stuff like that she put me on, and taking that every day. She said take it until the bottle's empty. So I've been taking 3 huge droppers every day to start my day, way before I eat anything like that. First thing, one of the first things, sometimes taking my cinnamon and stuff too, but just doing that every day, every single day. Yes, we teach Hebrew from time to time. We have it at SOC University, and when it pops up, when it's necessary, we do teach it. I'm not teaching it today, but how you doing, Chef? How you doing, Tomsky? So you got to recognize, like, these things or whatever. It's if you're gonna detox in the spirit, eventually you're gonna start detoxing in the flesh. It's only a matter of time. It just happened. I don't know. Like I said, that might not be everybody's experience. I don't want to say it's 100% guaranteed, but you're gonna at least. It's like somebody being like, oh man, they are abusive to women, and then they come into the knowledge of Christ. At some point, your knowledge of Christ gonna have them hands stay to yourself, because you realize to hit somebody else, especially your wife, is to hit yourself. Oh, nice to see you as well. Yeah, long time to talk to. We've been on. We on it. We're on the same amount of time as usual. I think unless you might have taken it. I don't know. I took a break for my born day after Feast of Tabernacles. I took a break in the end of October, I believe, for like 2 weeks and 2 days, and then we were back on. But yeah, so great to have you back on with us. So yeah, so Revelation chapter 6 verses 7 and 8. How you doing, Nathalie? Thanks for the love. It's very important for us to recognize and realize what is actually going on, what's happening here. So, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was what? Was death. And power was given unto him. Now recall, so I need you to recognize this is not just, oh no, whatever. This ain't nothing to play with. Power was given to Mavat. Power was given to who we call death here, Thanatos. Right, in Hela or Hades, power was given. Right, so the authority was not given by Yah. The authority was given by who? Because there's some persons that teach that these persons are authorized by Yah. This is not authorized by Yah. Right, this is what he's authorizing us to see is about to happen. No, thank you very much. Thank you for all the love. I appreciate that. Right. Power was given by Yah. I'm sorry, was given by Yah. What's coming up next in the 5th seal, excuse me, what we're going to deal with tomorrow. But these are things that are authorized through the world. And we are shown how to look at it through the prism of the 4 governances, the 4 beasts of Revelation 4. I need you to recognize power was given. Power was given. Power was given. What was given? Power was given. So you got to see who's giving it. So we see that this horse, now the reason we get pestilence and sickness and all this stuff from this particular horse, even though it's not really explicitly said, I think maybe in some different versions they start to use pestilence and stuff like that, or start to talk about sickness. But it is there because the reason we think about this is because it says that this horse is pale, and the word they're using here for pale is once again like chloros, or like Clorox even, chloros, talking about it being green or taking away color, or being pale in color, green, sickly, ghastly, gangrene even. So be having a very sick, disgusting appearance, as if like it's this person upon it is dying, even to the point of talking about it's yellowish as well, which could be jaundice, or just talking about somebody really close to death as well, right? So this, even if you look at like how this person would be, even think about somebody who's so sick that they start looking green. They look like they're about to puke all the time. They have like very yellow Jean or Jean or Jean this type of eyes. Like it's very, like it's putrid. It's putrid. What rides upon this horse. And one of the things that we don't recognize is this horse is dealing with spiritual sickness first. Spiritual sickness causes us to take each other's life with those pews, right? Spiritual sickness is what causes us to look at, to be hungry, although we're surrounded by food all the time, and not know that 70% of what we see is edible. I don't know how we're gonna do this. I've been thinking about this for a while. And for the month of February, we've been telling everybody we're gonna be doing something special. And asking just a $20 donation where we're gonna have like 3, 4. We're gonna do something special where we'll probably have like 4 classes. For those of you who are on SOC University, you don't have to worry about it if you're on Patreon. You'll get some of this stuff anyways. Period. But we're gonna do something in the month of February where we're gonna have about 3 to 4 classes, probably 4, no more than more than 4 classes. I'm gonna lose my mind trying to do all this stuff, right? But in the month of February, so basically starting next week, we're gonna have 2. I don't know. I'll figure out the days. We might do Monday. We might have to do like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings at like 9 p.m. Or I don't know. Monday we have a project management meeting, so we might have to do a quick project management meeting like we do, and then right after that start on Mondays. I don't know. It's gonna be late because that's about the best I can do without falling out. And I'm only gonna be able to do a month of it because I'm not gonna go back into doing it full time. So I won't. So I don't need to take a long vacation or anything. I'm only gonna be able to give you about 4 weeks of it. But we'll be doing something for where we bring back certain classes for the month of February, and go through quite a bit in these classes. Intense learning in just a short amount of time. But it'll still, by the way, those of you who would like to work with SOC University at some point to work out for, we have some of you, finishing up degrees and things like that, and even working. We got one person not working towards their doctorate. That's amazing. Praise yeah. But we're gonna keep on working towards those things and getting those things done. But yeah, these classes also too will be things that we will use to work towards those, just to give you a heads up. But anyways, I say all that to say, in those classes, we're gonna bring back stuff like, just talking about like health, parasites, how to tell what you're buying, what is your stuff sprayed with, how do you grow food, what does true sovereignty, look like, what are the laws that we're missing, how do I tell how to do this, that, whatever, what is my, how important is it that I get the DS11 formed, or did I know what a micronation is if I want to go that route? The importance of all these different things. What are the biblical comps, the UCC comps, for these state laws and things that I'm under that I didn't even know that, I could look at privately instead of publicly, right? But these things are done that make us sick. And how many persons know that when you're sick, you become dependent? See, that's the goal of this fourth horseman, ultimately, is now you're so dependent on the system. You're so sick, you got to get built up by the system. And now you're separated. You're not around family. You're not around friends. You're not around believers, right? You are not around persons who actually want you to do better. So now when you're sick, at least when you're sick, hey, let us carry one another's burdens, this and that, whatever. Now you're sick, you out there by yourself. Who you go to? You go to the persons who own all these things, like in Revelation chapter 18, where it tells us specifically at the end, it talks about witchcraft, sorcery. And if you're not careful, you might not recognize that term that they use for sorcery. But that word, if you study it, even in your concordance, your Strong's Concordance, you'll discover that word for sorcery there is actually witchcraft. But that word for witchcraft is pharmakia, or pharmacy. The 1% of the 1% of the 1%. And it tells you that those who are in power will use the pharmacy. They'll use it as witchcraft. They use it as control. How you doing, Jack Wingo? We'll try to see if we can go through that on Q&A, which will be next Thursday, next Friday. And plus, I'm about to get off, to be honest. We try to do Q&A every other Thursday and Friday, but I'm focusing in on Revelation in the series. And today we're talking about Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. I can try to recall that, though. We talked about, I don't know if I'll be able to go through every single chapter and every single verse for Q&A. We have talked about 1 Corinthians in many different ways before, especially 1 Corinthians chapter 11, if you're talking about specifically about how, like, what is our custom and what's not, and how he talks about how the Corinthians felt about hair, and then he says, but one thing I did leave with you is Passover. There's 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23, on to the end. You can talk about 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which is talking about how important love, even if you want to use the Greek term, agape love, self-sacrificing love, or we would say achabach, showing the love of Yah, and recognizing that if we don't have charity or self-sacrificing love, then all the stuff we talk about is in vain, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, today is I don't have the time, even if I wanted to. We have about 6-7 minutes. So, but welcome on, today. But yeah, so we have to recognize, what's going on. Pharmakia, pharmacy. It's literally the word just mentioned in Revelation chapter 18, towards the end, when it says you got to deal with sorcery, and it's talking about witchcraft, and the word they use for witchcraft is pharmacy. And if you know about pharmakia, she is an actual being relatively speaking, it's a spirit that's considered in Greco-Roman mythology to be a woman who, like you've seen in those old witch movies or Looney Tunes movies, even with Bugs Bunny and the witch is there and she's cutting up stuff, and Bugs Bunny doesn't realize that he's being made into a stew. He thinks he's just in hot water, and so he's being messed up. And what's interesting about it? You guys have heard about how you cook a frog, right? If you want to, for those who when I was little, I had frog legs, and I was tricked into eating them. Once I ate them, I was like, "Oh, okay, these things taste decent." Right? I didn't know any better. My father tricked me into eating it, so I had an experience. I can't eat them anymore, of course, because of the law. But if anybody knows, when you make frogs, right? You don't make frog. At least so I've been told. The best way to make frog is when the frogs are alive, right? And so when you take these frogs, right, whether they be big old bull frogs or whatever, when you take the frog and you begin to cook the frog, but you don't put the frog in hot water. That's right. And this is what they've done with us. You don't take the frog, you don't cook the frog in hot water. You cook the frog slowly, right? Maybe the heat is on, but it's a really low heat. You get some water, you put it in the you put it in the frying pan. The frog would just sit there. You said, oh, the lobster too? See, I didn't know about the lobster. Okay, that's what you do with lobster too. All right. So I never known that. But you put the frog in the water and let the water, the frog will chill out. The frog will be all right. Now I don't know if they swim around in water, if they do that, or if they just put them in the middle of the pan. I've never cooked it. Right? That being said, you put the frog in the water and you just have it, where it'd be like you being at the sauna. How you doing, Koba? How you doing, Levere Ward, as well? And thank you for the repost. So you just put them in there. They just chilling, and all you do is slowly but surely over time, you just keep turning up a little bit more. Frog will be all right. Turn up a little bit more. Frog, matter of fact, it's warm. Right? How you doing, G-World? Hopefully I'm saying that right. G-World. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Please forgive me. Right? Well, if there's things that you need help on and things of that nature, you can always reach out to us via the stuff on there on our link tree. And you can text us up on the 202 number. Somebody get back to you. But you do it so that it get warm. Well, you would think it's torture, and it is torture, but you don't know it's torture, right? You haven't done anything to the frog that's outside of it being in a pot. You've actually put the frog in a very familiar environment, right? You put the frog in a very familiar environment. The frog's like, oh, okay, it's water. This is what I do. I swim. This is water. This is what I do. I swim, I rip it, I croak. He doesn't realize he's about to croak. But he just chilling. And you just slowly keep turning it up and slowly keep turning it up. The frog doesn't know. And then by the time the frog realizes, wait a minute, this ain't right. Too late. It's too late. Now you've been heated up, and you've been heated up so much that you can't move. You got so caught up in the environment that you think is the same that you never once realized, wait a minute, it's just because it's similar, just because I can survive, just because it feels nice, just because I'm used to certain amenities, or just because I'm getting certain amenities that maybe I didn't get in the wild when I'm separate, it doesn't, maybe I should think to myself, yeah, normally if I was out, I wouldn't get water that just heats up and makes me feel great like that. You said leapfrog. Yeah, you should leave. Right? That's right. Gradually change the condition to death. How you doing, Brother Kenyatta? And a lot of us were caught up in that, to where we've been put in a situation and we've been put in this stuff, and we say, oh yeah, this is, oh yeah, blah blah, and it's like, no, now you're starting to realize you've been heated up and they've been turning it on. Now's your chance to leapfrog. Right? Now's your opportunity to get out. Now's your opportunity where, hey, like, look, we can tell for sure, right? Like, look, there's no rocks in here. There's no pebbles. Matter of fact, if you look carefully, there's some frogs, they didn't make it, and you still got power. Right? This word is not something that everybody's going to hear. And by the way, if you were to look at it like this, if you were to try and say to your froggy companion, hey, is it getting a little hot in here? Maybe we need to leave. Somebody in here be like, man, stop, man. I'm comfortable in here. Finally, I've been waiting for something where I can just sit and chill in water all day and I can just be nice and relaxed. Somebody would tell you crazy for saying you should jump. How you doing, Sister Monique? You know when they would say, that whole house Negro and field Negro, there's truth in what Malcolm said and what he preached and taught, where he would say, when the field Negro would come to the house Negro and say, or if you came to the house Negro and say, let's run, let's separate, right? Let's get out of this system. They would look at you and say, man, you crazy. Just what they say. You said they still say the same thing back today that they said back then, that they said in slave time. You come to them, you say, let's get out of here. They say, man, you crazy. Where you gonna buy a house like this? You can buy a house better than this. Where you gonna right? Where you gonna make money like this? There's places to where the little bit of money that you have is a lot somewhere else, right? They say, where are you gonna be able to get retirement like this? There's some places you don't have to worry about retirement. They'll say, where are you gonna be able to have a place to where you could own your home? Right? There's places where you can go and you don't have to pay taxes and you can own your home. But that's the mindset, because you've been in the water so much. Right? You've been in the water so long, and it's been heated up slowly but surely, it's getting hotter and hotter, and not realizing. And then you get to a place where it's like, wait a minute, my children will not be able to afford a home. Right? You were so warm in the system that you don't realize you done cooked your generations behind you. Telling them, just get a job, just get a job. You're like, wait a minute, they can't afford. Now they're trying to bring about 40 to 50 year mortgages. 30 was way too long. Now they're trying to make them 40, 50. Right? You cook, my boys. Your grandchildren cook, and you're not even thinking about how do we get something separate to where they're gonna have to, if they're gonna get what you think is mandatory. They're not like persons of my generation even who are in their 40s. We weren't thinking about it, but we'd be so excited when anybody got a home, and now we're starting to realize we were that excited because we don't really get homes like that anymore. Right? We've been priced out. Third horseman so much that now here we are in sickness. Fourth horseman. We were so busy saying that we were living longer than we ever have, and forgot that we used to, 100 years was nothing. I'm not saying nothing, but hear what I'm saying. Like, somebody living to 100 was normal. There were slaves who lived and worked in the fields into their hundreds. Now here we are without even needing to work that hard, but we're working ourselves to death for somebody else and medicating ourselves, and then saying, well, at least we're the first generation where persons can live on a normal basis until their 70s. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What are we, Yeah, it's not about Republican or Democrat. Both sides are so busy in that water that you're getting cooked. And by the way, we're overtime. So if you need to go, I only need a few. I'm just give me a few more minutes. I'm done. We're done with today, right? We'll start looking at some of this stuff as far as vengeance, which is something that persons don't like talking about, but it's in there, Revelation. We'll talk about that tomorrow, though, and we'll see you guys hopefully for the live session this evening. Um, but man, I'm here to tell you. Somebody said on here, try blooming flourish herbs. I'm on. They work for you. Praise God, right? But if we don't recognize the season that we're in and what we're called to do, we have to be able to decipher through the nonsense. You got to learn something called discernment. You've been in the water so long that now somebody's talking about, man, we need to jump, and you realize, no, man, I'm gonna stay in here. You this close to being cooked. You this close. You this close to where this close to. Are you gonna see lemons and oranges and things like and grapes with seed in them ever again? Now it's pretty much impossible to see a banana with seed, at least in the States. We'll make sure once again we're going to do this Revelation series. If there's witches and warlock, by the way, we spoke something about witchcraft today. But maybe if you have questions, comments, concerns for Q&A day on Thursday and Friday next week, for sure we can bring that up if you recall and bring it back up to us. But yeah, once again, we got to be obedient to the series, and in this series we're seeing what's going on, and we have to recognize that like one of the things that's happening is to make us sick, to have us a sick mind, and to have us to have a sick body. We talked about today in Revelation chapter 18, talking about sorcery. When you look up that word sorcery, it's talking about witchcraft. When you look up what the word they're using there, it's pharmakia. Pharmakia meaning pharmacy, right? And it's actually talking. And by the way, in this series, when we've gone through the 7 assemblies, right, they have assemblies dealing with Artemis, dealing with really different versions of Ishtar in the 7 assemblies that are all under the Pergamine dynasty. So if you want to go back through those recordings and stuff, you can. And we talk specifically about how when you talk about Ishtar, you're talking about witchcraft, right? We're talking about sorcery. We're talking about the Jezebel spirit. You're talking about witchcraft. We talked about that already. So there's a whole series we've been doing since January the 1st. And we're going to be doing and taking our time for quite some time before we then go into our series in Exodus. So yeah. So we definitely have those things that you can look up. Right. But what I'm saying ultimately is that we're so busy once again, even the fighting each other and the arguing each other down and not trying to actually create nations, but being like, we even have this weird thing. We talked about this even fighting each other with such and such as far as Tariq Nasheed, or if you're black enough, if you're Israelite enough, if you're Hebrew enough, if you're Hebrew Israelite enough, if you're FBA, if you're Native American enough, if you're Afrocentric enough, if you're African enough, if you're Caribbean enough, and persons don't recognize it's divide and conquer. This is war. It's wartime tactics. It's the same thing they've been using. And at some point, we have to recognize, even if we don't agree on everything, that's fine. First things first, though, can we agree that we need to come away from persons who use our disagreements as war, as to war against us? How you doing, Chosen? And thank you. Can we at least touch and agree on that it's time for us to stop warring against each other so much that we can actually come to a place of agreement? Can we at least come to that place? You see what I'm saying? Because watch this. Here, let me do some names for you real quick, because I'm seeing some stuff pop up in the chat, whatever. Let me just give you a couple names. Watch this. Biden, Obama, Clinton, JFK. Guess what? Guess what? They all work for the beast. Here's some other names for you. Trump, Bush, Reagan, Carter, Nixon. They all work for the beast too. And if we get, you see what I'm saying? If we can connect, like Obama is quoted as saying how much he wants to be like Reagan. So he kept Reaganomics alive. I mean, we can say, yeah, Jefferson, Lincoln, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, uh, you know, Madison, Monroe, um, um, Adams. Uh, who's number 7? Who's the guy who was Dutch? Whatever his name is, Jackson. Later on, like all these persons, they're all part of the same beast. Roosevelt, you pick and choose whichever one. Just because one had a wife that supposedly supported black folk, and maybe she did, maybe she didn't. It seemed like it might be more of a political move. But that being said, she seemed to genuinely want to do more for us as a people. If you're talking about so-called black persons, she wanted to do us more for us as a people than anybody else really did, especially before her time. Van Buren, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Martin van Buchen. I'm not sure how you would say his name. He's Dutch, but Jackson was 7, Van Buren was 8, right? And then after that, I start getting out of it. Is it Polk? I don't always recall the numbers after that point. Um, but yeah, so I'm just saying all of those names you can name, they're all part of the same beast. We're all warned. We're warned about all of them. They're all anti-Israel. I didn't say Israeli. They're anti-Israelite, and they're all related. Come on, including Obama. Trump is the one that persons will say he's not related, and the reality is, look at his wives and look at his business. Even if you want to say he's not related, well, look at his business and look how chummy he was with the Clintons and all that stuff, and supposedly, allegedly, stuff that he did with Bill Clinton with Bubba. Allegedly, things he did with Bubba. I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that alone. But y'all know what the document said. I don't, that's alleged. That's allegedly. I ain't say what somebody did with it. I'm talking about allegedly, according to that document. At least that's what they say. Even if it's proved to be a lie, they was in the same room for sure around these babies. They're all part of the same beast. So if we recognize at some point their beastly nature, their ghastly nature, their green, sickly nature, right? Then we'll start to catch up on the fact that yeah, we need to at least like bare minimum, we need to have this thing where we stop thinking that because somebody got vote. Matter of fact, when you realize that your vote has never mattered because they all, no matter who you vote in, they're all. I look, they're all taking care of the same beast. And I know there's a sister right now in Texas, who's doing her thing and making things seem like this, blah blah. She works for the same beast. It's like we talk about with police officers. It sounds great and all this stuff with police officers, but I promise you, at the end of the day, the police, even if they want to do their best for you, look, I used to be a military police officer, almost became a police officer in Waukegan, Illinois. All right, right. I could have went back and finished the thing up. I decided not to do it. That being said, yeah, like as much as I might want to do what's right for you, I still have to follow a law or legalities, at least, that are not for you but are for somebody else. Right? And you have to swallow that pill. You say whatever you will, man. You can work at HR and want to do really well, but guess what? If you work for Amazon, Amazon has the deck stacked. At some point, they're going to still have to give Amazon what they want because if they don't do it enough, they'll get fired. You can have a manager that wants to really make sure that they take care of you. I promise you. How you doing? Or it's 11:11. Made by the way. Um, so we're gonna get ready to take our leave. But I'm just trying to tell you, doesn't matter who it is, right? Even with Mitt Romney. If you like Mitt Romney, the same Mitt Romney that walked around and saying Black Lives Matter, that seemed to be very decent of him, right? Until you realize that Mitt Romney is the same guy that who basically is part of that company that is the reason why you don't have Toys R Us. How you doing, Pastor Don? I missed you on. Right? Same guy. This Bain Company, thank you. I always forget the name. I should recall it because of Batman, but I don't. But same company who not only with Toys R Us but others. What do? They go around and they have companies. Toys R Us paid off their debt. What the Bain Company did was say, even though Toys R Us paid off its debt, paid off bankruptcy, they kept giving them all new debts and everything because what they do is they they need companies to fall apart. When the companies fall apart, they basically pick up the pieces and make as much money as what's left over, and then they move on to the next one. Conquering for the sake of conquering, causing a sickness. You said in situations like that, what do? Do I just take it? No. That's why I don't just take it. That's why I'm separate from it. I try my best to make sure that we are causing ourselves to be separate. Even some of the simple things that persons keep saying. And by the way, I know I'm supposed to be finished, but it is what it is. Look, even for the persons, and I'm not trying to talk trash, and these persons make more money off of this than I could ever imagine. FD Signifier, Lil Bill, I listen to these cats. Even if I disagree with some of what they say, I agree with more than what I would probably like to admit. To be honest, because I be thinking I disagree with a whole lot. We're probably closer in a lot of ways than what we think. That being said, well, they don't even know about me, what I would think. That being said, you know, anybody out there telling us that we should not make sure that we make sure our dollar comes around us first is out of their mind. Because they can't tell us about Tulsa and then say that we shouldn't do that. And a lot of persons, once again, they'll be so busy telling you, oh yeah, they're so busy having platforms that, forgive me, can we keep it a buck? Can we keep it a buck for a second, just for a few more? I know I said I'm done, and I'm really done for real. If y'all want to go, this is just based off the question, but also just Holy Spirit's like I can't just release there. So I'm just trying to be obedient at this point. Look, I'm not gonna stay on for a long time. I just gotta make sure I do this correct. What'd you have me say? Okay, so like, so basically at this point, right? When you have persons who come on and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't worry about taking care of your community and stuff. I need you to recognize, even FD Signifier, as great as what some of his stuff is, if I'll be honest, it's challenging bare minimum. At least it helps you as a so-called black man in the corporation of the United States of America to look at myself certain ways, even if I think he's kind of wrong and doing things poorly. It at least causes me to be challenged. Like you should watch some stuff that challenges your perspective and has you have to be better or whatever, right? At the same time, though, he's so busy talking about how his stuff is blackity black, 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 while simultaneously not thinking about that the only reason he's allowed to get to that perspective is because he's considered to be safe, right? And how do you get safe in that regard? Well, if you tell black persons, so-called black person, I'm just gonna say black persons, you guys know my stance on that stuff. If you tell black persons, black people, if you're thinking of ourselves as a nation, that's how we normally think of it. So if we're saying black people, if you tell us on one end, and how you doing, double OG, triple OG, you tell us on one end, make sure that we take care of ourselves, and then at the same time you tell us, don't make sure you have your own finances. You tell us to buy black, but then you say buying black's not going to change anything. You're safe. You're very safe, right? Anybody can be mad at me if I'm talking about your boy or whatever. He can be mad at me, but you're safe. And even they will tell you that they're problematic. Lil Bill will tell you that. Hefty Signifier will tell you that. Please forgive me, I don't know everybody's names. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to grow. When I can watch those things, I try my best to watch as much of that as I can, just to keep up with what the conversation's going on in diaspora, because they're kind of looked at as the main persons. There's obviously my man who used to be on CNN, who's now on the Joe Budden show. I forget his name, but y'all know who I'm talking about. Somebody said the reason, so we've been restricted. It's okay, we're not going to be on there that much longer. They said we're restricted for 10 minutes because of misinformation. So somebody didn't like what I was saying. They reported me because I said that black persons should stop telling persons not to support themselves. Okay, so that's very clear. That's very clear of what they're doing. All right, well, whoever did that, you got your little whatever on there. It's okay. I'm almost finished anyways. So whoever did that on the low or high key, whatever, they normally don't out themselves when they do stuff like that. But anyways, yeah. So it's you have to recognize, like, when we say that we're considered to be safe. If somebody like myself comes around and says, hey, why not support your own businesses? Why not make sure that you're taking care of your own families? Why not make sure that you have persons that have beliefs of yours in common? Why not make sure that even if you don't agree, for example, like even with Brother TJ and stuff that now is becoming public for whatever reason, and we had to go through whatever we had to go through today. it doesn't stop me from telling you guys, like I've told you before, like I believe I consider him to be a jelly Kriya, right? Like he's got a wealth of information. Why not listen to him and stuff? There's certain things as far as spiritually we might disagree on. Doesn't mean that if he's not telling you solid truth, you shouldn't listen to his foundational truth, right? Um, but this is the stuff that we deal with and deal in, where um, we are taught to support our own, even and to support Israel, to support the nation, to support nationality, to support kingdom. We're taught that we have persons that come by and tell us two different things. Hey, make sure that you want to be as included in the world, but at the same time, you want to make sure you're segregated at the same time. It's like, which one do you want? Right? Do you want to live on your knees? Or right? And really, I'm not even saying die on your feet. Do you want to live on your knees or do you want to live on your feet? See, I think like that's the wild part is we're taught as if we'll only be able to die on our feet instead of live on our feet. How about live on your feet or live on your knees? I mean, that's really what we're gonna be. Man, you know what? Can somebody send me a text message later on today, before the live session is later this evening or something, or even if you send it right after? Somebody can send me a reminder. That's what we're talking about tonight. All right, live on your, live on your you can live on your feet. Why does it gotta be why does it gotta be you have to live, die on your feet? We can live on our knees or we can live on our feet. Eventually everybody gonna die, whether you die on your knees or die on your feet. Might as well decide to live on your feet. And we've accepted defeat, so to speak, so much that we can't even live on our feet. Like we have a right to live on our feet. We have a right to be able to not just only speak or think things spiritually. We have a right to have a mindset and a lifestyle, right, that come out of this four horseman mentality that has gathered us into this place to where we have legit recognized that Christ is the one who has given us his revelation and allows us to have it as our own, as fellow heirs, as long as we readeth it, heareth it, and keepeth it. And rather than do that, what do? We decide to die, right? To die on our knees because we live on our knees. After a while, you're going to die on your knees too. And everybody keeps having this mindset, once I get to heaven. No, this stuff is for us right now. There's a lot of stuff that says this is what you do with your money now. This is how you save up things now. This is what you invest in now. This is what your businesses are now. This is what the kingdom is now, right? We don't have to do this stuff when we die. We can live on our feet, right? We don't have to live on our knees. We can live on our feet. We don't have to die on our feet. We can live on our feet. Anyways, all right. Just had to explain that. And prayerfully, it wasn't just me getting it off my chest. Might have been both, but I believe Holy Spirit said had to fix that, so I couldn't just leave that sitting there. All right. So love y'all. Thank you so much for being on. We're gonna go ahead. If you're over on TikTok and you'd like to join us on TikTok, we're gonna do our shout out real quick. Those of you who know how the shout out works, well, we'll explain it in just a second. But feel free to go ahead and come over to TikTok or stay on TikTok if you're already over here. We appreciate you so very much. We're thankful and grateful. And hopefully you got something out of this word. Tomorrow we're going to start at Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. And we're going to start talking about some things as far as vengeance and what we should be looking for, this fifth seal. Amon, thank you so much. I saw the person with the reminder. I appreciate you. All right, so we're going to talk about this fifth seal tomorrow. Tonight we're going to talk about living on our feet. All praises to the Most High. Yeah, I got some studying to do. I thought we were going somewhere else. Holy Spirit said, nope. We're talking about living on our feet. We keep talking about dying on our knees and live on our feet. How about we just live on our feet? Or I'm sorry, dying on our, or living on our, or living on our knees and dying on our feet. But we can just live on our feet. All praises. Hallelujah. All right. I'm trying to I'm having an issue. Give me a second, y'all. Why am I having oh, here we go. So thank you all for being on. We appreciate you. Much love to you. Thank you so much for being on. We'll see you this evening. And then we'll see you tomorrow. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to for my wife, the Honorable Mind, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, our website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Oh, also, too, there was somebody, I apologize, somebody asked me about stuff for, I'm going to get back to you. Somebody asked me about stuff for Passover, and you hadn't sent information in, or you'd like to get information, like to be part of it, whatever. We're going to make sure we send you that info ASAP. Okay. So I got some catching up to do from these last few days. But thank you all. How you doing, Sister Monica? Everybody, live there, everybody. Love you all so much. You got, yep. I recall. Yep. So I got you. Matter of fact, Sister Renee, if you're still on Baba Kasha, if you're still on, we can add Sister Dawn. I'm not sure if it's Sister Dawn and family yet, but I'm gonna contact her and get in touch with her or whatever, and I'll make sure that I send you a word. Oh, by the way, we missed Monday because of my issues and stuff. Y'all see now, praise Yah. I can move my hands and stuff. Still a little bit of pain, right? But it's there. So thank you for your prayers and thank you for the suggestions for things for the back and all that stuff. But we missed Monday, so I will be. I'll just send out a link. So you guys should see a link show up later on. It'll just say project management. It'll be sent out via email or a Google Calendar invite. So just look for that to show up, and we'll make sure that we put that out there for stuff that was supposed to be put out on Monday. Not really much new. So that's all that I have. Don't forget, we're going to start some classes next week. So those of you who are interested, if you're not already on SOC University and you're interested in taking some of those classes with us, it'll be pretty much on Zoom only. But it'll be 4 times a week. I'm probably gonna have to do it later on Mondays, like Monday 9:30ish. Anyways, y'all stand by. But we might move up things on Monday so I can start at 9. But we'll be doing some classes Monday at 9. So Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, because I can't do Sunday. I'm gonna try to keep Tuesday and Wednesdays off as much as I can with all this stuff going on. Also, too, we do have one thing we're doing on Tuesdays. You might see from time to time. If you'd like to join us, once again, we've been putting the word out via for our SOC International text string on WhatsApp. So if you'd like to be part of that, we're doing some things via there. So our SOC International meetings on Saturday, some of you have seen and heard now that we got persons from different places in different countries who are joining us at that time on Saturdays, right after we do our watch parties on Saturdays at 2 p.m. New York time. We meet together internationally, and you can join on Zoom still and through other platforms. Also, too, we do some teaching in Pakistan on Tuesdays as well. And we can't really put that out, especially faces and stuff we can't put out because Pakistan is one of those places to where if a person see you're in the word of Yah, they're really standing on it. They can be off. So we have to be careful with how it's there. But if you'd like to join and actually hear them and see certain things or whatever, feel free to join through that WhatsApp group that we have, SOC International. If for some reason you didn't get a thing sent to you through the app, that's how it should have been sent, or it got a text message, or I don't know how it's sent, but I've been inviting persons here or there. If you didn't get an invite, you're interested in joining us with some of those things going on, including even eventually we'll probably have some of our meetings with our Rwanda folk and hopefully children and stuff down the road on that stuff as well. Feel free to let me know, and we'll try to include you, because we will need help. We will need help, even just sometimes, to be honest, especially, ministerial staff. Some of you are going to get some assignments, but even some of you, as far as project management, if you think that you would like to learn some of that stuff, there's certain things that you're going to be sworn to secrecy on, but to protect some of the persons, because like we said in other countries, this stuff is real. So, some of this stuff we just take for granted here. It's real in the field. So they be out there really, gearing up, trying to make sure stuff is together, dealing with different things every day, not having enough electricity one moment, not having signal. We've helped some of them to build locations and stuff like that in times past, making sure they got nets and all that stuff. But if you're interested in dealing with some of that, or just being like, hey, every once in a while, I can be a liaison. If they can't reach you, maybe they can reach me, type thing or whatever. But we'll send more information about that in the project management meeting. But the WhatsApp stuff should have been sent out to you guys for that. So if you're interested and you hear me talking about things and you'd like to participate in some of those things in that manner, you got to have the SOC International group. You got to be part of that group. If not, you won't be able to hear and see. Well, you'll be able to maybe hear some of it in some of our meetings, but you definitely won't be able to, fellowship the way that we'd like to be able to have fellowship with our brethren. All right. So thank you all. That's all that I have. We're going to go ahead and do our shout out. If you'd like to come over to TikTok or just stay over here for the shout out, feel free to. Yeah, to everybody who's on, whether you came over from IG, Clapper, the podcast, Tada, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, hopefully all is well. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. New York time, but we'll also see you tomorrow to continue this particular series that we're in. And as always, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya. And remember, as always, beloved, that you are loved. You're necessary. You're majestic. Excuse me. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Take care. We'll talk with you soon. Peace.